don't know what's going on.
All right, Madam Clerk, are we on the record? I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the work session meeting of the River Edge Mayor and Council for Monday, June the 1st, 2015, and now, time is now approximately 7:05 or so. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Murphy?
Here.
Councilman Capone will be out. The late Councilwoman Mesquite? Here. Councilman Mignon?
Here.
Councilman Aguirre?
Present.
And Councilman Papaleo. Anybody?
He had injury, slight injury. Didn't sound serious, but he wasn't sure whether he was going to make it. That's what he did.
Please let the record reflect that Mayor Cindy Masquitola and Borough Attorney Thomas Sorrow are also present.
Okay. Borough Administrator topics. Mr. Negri.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, the first topic has to do with the HVAC in the library. I've obtained a proposal from Omdex Consulting Engineers, who was advising the architect on the library improvement, the roof replacement. The proposal, which is in front of you, is for $2,300, which would be an evaluation of the entire system and provide you with recommendations on any changes or improvements to the HVAC system. We do have some funding that's been set aside for this possibility. I believe it's about $50,000. And another memo accompanied this explaining the ordinances that are involved and the history of looking at the HVAC. I'd like to know if the council would like to proceed with this proposal to evaluate the current system and see whether there are any recommendations.
Who?
Vito.
Alan, who requested this?
I requested the
study.
Yes, based on the fact that the library director had thought that the HVAC improvements were to be included in with the roof improvement. After reviewing the work session meetings, it was apparent that the council had decided to put off the overall evaluation of the system, given the fact that the changing some of the condensers would not affect the new roof replacement.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Did we undertake a similar study before the HVAC was done here? We did.
Yes.
So this
Yes,
is
yes.
standard.
Yes. Same
Thank
guys,
you.
I think.
No. So I'd like to make a motion to go ahead with this study in order to evaluate the HVAC system for the library.
All right, gentlemen, there's a motion on the floor to go ahead with the study. Is there any second?
I'll second the motion.
Second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, we can go ahead. Next, we have our borough engineer to give us a report on several different engineering issues. Mr. Costa, good evening.
Mr. Mayor, good evening, council. Women, councilmen, good evening. Mr. Negri, good evening, Mr. Sarlo, and members of the public.
Do you have the list in front of you?
I did.
Okay.
Mayor, may I give some background on the first item?
Go ahead.
This is 43 Pine monuments. In 1998, we finished a project down on Oneida and Oswego. A contractor provided $1,800 as security to put certain monuments in on the property. That was never done. And we've been trying to locate him and provide him with a last chance letter. I think we left off in 2012 trying to locate him and provide him with a last chance to put the monuments in. So I don't know how critical it is to put those monuments in. If not, it would be my recommendation that this $1,800, which he posted, go to the State of New Jersey Unclaimed Property Fund. Unless we're going to utilize it to put the monuments in, then it should be returned to the person who deposited it.
It says 43 Pine monuments. What exactly is
The
that?
name of the contractor was 43 Pine,
Oh.
and the monuments is the topic.
What type of monuments?
Rob, would you address that?
Basically, there was, to create the subdivision, excuse me, you have to put in monuments, survey monuments, so you know where the specific property
You mean like
corners.
stakes?
Actually, they're concrete monuments. I think they're 30 inches deep. And it would go back to where the map is, or whether the map was filed and where they're located on the actual file map. Again, the contractor's gone, the houses are occupied. I mean,
Is there any benefit to doing it?
you're required to do it by law, and then they would have to post a bond in order to do it. I'm not sure at this point, but I've never had this happen, to be honest with you. This is a first.
Well, was the $1,800, is that a bond or is that cash or
No,
what?
it's cash.
It's cash. And we ask our engineer here on, we use the $1,800 to put in the monuments?
What's the cost of the survey work? I can tell you, I don't know.
I mean,
That seems...
I'm not sure if we could even set the monuments, though. I think it's...
No,
I think it would have to go back to the...
This was for subdivision?
For subdivision. I think we'd have to go back... I'd have to research. I think we'd have to go back to the engineer or surveyor that actually prepared the file map. Because I think if you put in...
Was there a waiver? Did they sign the waiver not to set the monuments?
You can't. It's a file map. They're required.
You filed it by map.
Yeah, it was a major subdivision. The only way to perfect the subdivision would be to file a map, which would be on record with the county, and under that,
But doesn't usually the county also take a bond for it?
only if it's on a county road. Like I said, Mayor, I've never experienced this.
Can we just use the 1,800 and put the monuments in and that's it?
That's why I just asked, and we didn't get a definitive answer.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
No, I don't
I think
think
we have
I
to
think-
reach out to the person who actually did the map. I
But
don't
then you
think...
said like they have to post a
I
bond.
mean, physically, we could do it, but I'm not sure if legally we could...
Someone have to certify.
I think you got to certify them, and I don't think we could certify it because really you're certifying
Someone
the
else.
preparer of the map.
Mhm.
I'd have to look into that.
Well, going back to 1998.
You just gotta find out who the surveyor is that prepared the map and
And see if he's willing to do it
see
for
if he's
$1,800.
willing to do it for what we have in our account, trust account. Okay.
Can we do that? I mean,
Yeah.
can we use that money towards that?
Yes.
Yes?
Let's find that surveyor first, and then we'll answer that question.
If they're still in
All right, let's
business.
see if we can
Yeah, what's
find
it?
the appropriate party to do it.
Surveyors, all right. Yeah. If he's still in business.
Right. All right, well,
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the next.
Next topic. There's a lot of ground to cover.
This is the decorative lamp in front of
Gary Gorski.
Mr. Gorski's, right. Where we had left off was you were working with a Mr. Patrick Buck,
Correct.
PSE&G, and he was looking for a lighting plan.
Patrick,
Yeah, I first need a scaled lighting plan that shows the proposed base location. Please send 2 hard copies to my attention.
the problem in a nutshell is the base and the wiring was never put in correctly. So PSE&G will not set the light at that location. You have to rip out the base, put in the wiring correctly, put in the grounding rod correctly, and then they will set the base. To my recollection, Mr. Gorski has approximately $7,000 up in escrow money.
He has more than that in 2 locations,
Okay.
yes.
And this is years ago, Alan. We got 3 quotes from 3 different contractors to do the work, and then I was put on hold not to do it. If the council says do it, we've asked Mr. Gorski to do it. That still hasn't been done. If the council authorizes me, tomorrow morning, we'll get 3 quotes, take the money that's on in escrow, get the work done, and get the light put up ourselves.
Okay,
Or
that sounds easy.
send a letter and say, we're going to,
Option A.
option A is easy.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to go with the first option.
All right. There's a motion on the floor to have Mr. Costa obtain 3 quotes to see if the decorative light can be installed at the equal to or less than the balance of the trust funds we're holding, the $7,000. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second?
Alan,
Any
you said it was
further
7,000, sorry,
I
in
have,
one place, or is it two?
I have
7,000?
$7,750 in the maintenance bond,
Uh-huh.
and I have $7,115 in developer's escrow.
Let's go.
So there's even some for
My
engineering
recollection, I think it was
expenses.
$3,000 or $4,000 to get a contractor to do it, so it should be more than sufficient.
So you have over 14,000 there.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Thank
Mayor,
you.
one question on that. There's no other work that's left there? No, I know there was several.
It was dead, there's no trees, there's, I mean, Dick Berman was actually involved in that.
And I remember there were several issues that seemed to just remain
There were some
unresolved.
issues that were outstanding in his letters. I'd have to pull the whole file.
We probably should see what else is.
Or I'll call
Call
Mr.
Dick and
Marvin
see if
tomorrow
there-
and see if he has any open items in that.
Okay. Let's move on. Striping on Fifth Avenue, Phase 1, 2, and 3. I know that Councilman Mignon had some questions regarding the design of the striping, changing from phase to phase and so on and so forth. Do you have any report on that?
Well, obviously, one is complete, not signed off yet. I know I was at the meeting a couple months ago as far as with respect to Continental and respect to the striping down there. Phase 2 went out to bid, bids were received. I don't believe there was any award to Marini Brothers. Phase 3, we just got an award from the state for $149,000, but no plans have been started, so that isn't even close to going out to bid yet. So I'm not sure exactly.
Well, we have three bids on Phase 2, right?
Phase 2, you received bids, we have 3. There's a low bidder is Marini Brothers, but I don't think the council has awarded it to my knowledge.
No, we just took the bids. We have a review from the borough attorney. We haven't heard back from this consultant yet. And,
Right. But the low bid was $125,900. We spoke to Rich Lovelace's office, and because the grant is obviously a little bit more than that, he said no problem, that you can extend it further up the street, Mayor. So we could use up all of the money if you do decide to award to Marini Brothers.
Okay. All right, but what about the striping? The MUTCD, does it comply? Does it not comply?
I know Mr. Mignon, Councilman Mignon, and myself had a conversation at the last meeting, and Saturday morning, as I was driving the car Route 35 in Bayhead, I said to my wife, I'm going to stop and take a photo. But I didn't do that, but what I did do, there's actually an article dated today, because NJDOT actually striped it almost in the same identical striping on Fifth Avenue.
You're like Matlock.
And if you see the headline on this article, it says, "Odd bicycle markings on Route 35 aren't a mistake after all." And if you look at the shoulder or the painted white line off the curb, there's no parking restrictions there, so people actually park there. You have the lane, and then the sharrow in the lane in each direction. The only difference is, it's a two-way street, and there's a double yellow line in the center line.
What's the speed limit on Route 35?
It changes periodically, but I believe 35. I think
Exactly. Well, but that's part of the problem. Yes, because,
I think it's 30 or 35,
Generally-
but I'm not sure about Bayhead. Bayhead
Well-
might be 30.
and I'm not going to get into engineering discussion tonight, but generally on a residential road, you don't strike parking lanes. That's just not common. The MUTCD even says you should do it when you have high turnover. We don't have high turnover on Route 5. Second of all, that this was not what the council agreed to. And I went back to the meeting, and I thank Stephanie for pulling out the tapes. I went back and watched 3 or 4 meetings, starting back in March of 2014, where we're insisting that the bike lane was going to fit. And Alan was the one who suggested the sharrows. And there was a lot of discussion about, should we have sharrows, should we not? At the end of that meeting, the consensus was that we were going to have sharrows, no stripes, that was it. Then on on April 7th, so 17th, I'm sorry. On April 17th, the mayor said that I was correct, that we couldn't put the bike lane in, because apparently there was a traffic and safety meeting that was discussed at. And we were just going to have pure pavement with the signs, with the sharrows only and bikeway signs. And the mayor said that was a reasonable compromise at that point. That was his term. Then on May 19th, I'm sorry, there was a lot more discussion about the sharrows. I said at the time I didn't want to sign up on the plans because it still showed it like a bike lane. And at that point, the mayor said that if Councilman Young had any technical questions with Mr. Costa, he can address them after the bid is awarded. So that was why I signed up the plan. Last time you made the comment, Mr. Costa, that I knew it was on the plan and I signed off on it. Well, that was the reason, because we said we would address it afterwards.
I mean, at this
Basically, he
point-
said there was going to be signs that say bikeway and sharrows. We weren't going to have a striped parking lane. Then, I said in the MPUTCD itself, it says it, when they talk about sharrows, they say that the alternate, which is basically when you have a substandard lane width, which is what we have, because you can't have a car ride with a bicycle.
Correct.
That the preference is that basically you would have a bicycle may use full lane signs, not bikeway signs, with the sharrows. And the last thing is that our sharrow is not the size that the MUTD says it's supposed to be. It says 112 inches. I went out, ours is 144 inches. So it doesn't meet the MUTC graphic either. So I'm going back to what the council voted twice to do, plus what I see here. I'm not neglecting, but I said, you know, parking, you stripe parking when there's higher traffic normally. We don't have any parking stripes at Kindercomack Road. Second thing I had was that in Phase 1, we do have a solid parking lane. It traverses driveways and goes end to end. Phase 2, it's showed as staggered. It opens up where the driveways are, so it's going to look different. You have stripe, opening, and you know, and the end where I keep going back towards Howland, that doesn't comply with the plan either, with the yellow box and everything we talked about. So I want consistent striping. If the council wants to put a parking lane in, it's not, I'm not saying it's illegal. I think it's unconventional there, but everything else should be consistent and match as we go forward. We've had residents say they didn't want that striping all the way down Fifth Avenue. Now we're going to be going to the second and third phase. So, yeah, whatever the council decision is, it is. But I just wanted to point out that, based on the public record, that's how that whole issue evolved, and that's how we got to where we are today.
All right, any discussion?
Is there a way to correct the size of the sharrow?
Again, as far as the sharrows, the day I was out there, they came, they couldn't put them down, they left, and then all of a sudden they showed up again, similar to what happened on Common. I'll certainly go out there to look to see whether or not these sharrows are the correct size, incorrect size. Again, this job has not, we haven't done a final walkthrough, we haven't done a final sign-off, the state hasn't come in yet until the council gives me direction as far as what they want me to do, or report back and tell me. I'll measure the stuff, bring people in and say either we're going to grind them out and start again. The issue is Phase 2 is bid, and again, we can take anything out, we can put anything in at this point. I just literally need direction. I don't want to get people upset.
Well, if they've made a mistake with an incorrect sharrow size, then they should be responsible for correcting it.
They should, and they shouldn't have put it down in the first place. And again, I think we need to do something different as far as the striping, because they just seem to come in and almost like in the middle of the night and do what they want and leave. They don't call us. I don't know whether or not they're calling the police department. I doubt they are, because normally they would contact my office to say, oh, by the way, they're coming in tomorrow morning, they're doing this. They just show up.
But I think we talked about that. In your specifications, you can either require them to mark it out prior, It may sound extreme, make them do a shop drawing. It may not, if that's what's going to take for them to comply.
What it is, you're not dealing directly with the striker.
I know, but-
You're dealing with the general contract.
Yes, but then they can't get paid then if they do that.
But it's after the fact. That's what it just doesn't happen here. It happens in a lot of places. It just didn't happen on Fifth Avenue. I think because it's such a smaller job, they probably send their people out, they finish a job, they call in the shop and say, oh, by the way, go here because this is a couple hours worth of work. And they just do it.
All right, well, I think it looks beautiful. I don't have that's just my personal opinion. I like the idea of having not a bike lane, because the shower is not in the parking lane, but making the road appear narrower to reduce the speed of cars by putting in the striping on each side, as the way this looks over here. I think it's a good point. Whether you got to be consistent. If you're going to stop at driveways, you got to stop at every driveway. Or if you're going to have the solid line all the way from one end to the other, just let it be a solid line all the way from one end to the other. I don't see a problem with having it just be a solid line.
Well, the only thing I can say, Bayhead, and this is literally this was probably done Thursday or Friday of last week.
Right.
They have a solid line throughout the community.
Yeah, no, I see, and I see
It's
the,
almost identical to what we have there.
and and I see the headline.
And that's
bicycle
again,
marking is.
But that's a DOT, it's a highway. It's not a residential road.
No, what I'm saying, though.
And you don't do these on
Council, with
residential
due
roads.
respect, This is a $200 million project.
On a
This is
state highway.
This is a state highway
Exactly.
through Bayhead, New Jersey.
Yes, it's a state highway.
No,
It's not
through
a
the middle of
residential
Bayhead,
road.
New Jersey. This is a high-end town, high real estate value town. The houses on this street, this state highway, are in excess of millions.
That's irrelevant. You're
Well,
talking
it's-
about a state highway. You're not talking about a residential
It might
road.
be irrelevant as far as whether it's a state highway or not, but what I'm trying to say is the house values on this particular street are in excess of millions of dollars. And that Sharrow is in this almost the identical location as Fifth
The
Avenue.
Sharrow is the reason the Sharrow came was to show the physically mark where the bicycles are supposed to drive so as not to get hit by a car. It's redundant, in a sense, to have a striped parking lane because the Sharrows themselves are supposed to line up. The 11 feet is the 8 foot where you would park, plus the 3 feet for the door. That's how they come up with the 11 foot where the Sharrow's supposed to be. So it's the absence of having another visual marker. So it's redundant in that
No,
sense.
you need to put the Sharrows every 250 feet.
At
And the idea
most,
of the
yes.
Sharrow is to say that the road is shared between vehicular traffic and the bicycle traffic. There isn't a dedicated lane.
Correct.
The only way to get dedicated bike lanes is if you had either removed, in this particular case, because we're only 39 to 40 feet, you just don't have enough width, 8, unless we started moving the curb lines.
The reason I endorsed the Sharrow and not the striping was because I foresee that the maintenance of the striping in the future is going to become an issue.
I understand, Alan, but it's just paint. It's
Not just paint. It's not paint. It's thermoplastic. You saw what happened when we had to take it up on Continental.
No, it's difficult to remove.
Yeah, it's not paint.
I mean, and the whole idea is
It's
to last
thermoplastic.
well. No. I mean, if we go back in time, the reason we did this was when we originally went for the grant, in order to move up the ladder as far as getting the grant, was to try to make this pedestrian safe and bicycle safe and vehicle safe in order to tie into the park. And that was the whole idea behind our application to get the money from the state.
Would you say that we would not have gotten the grant for Fifth Avenue?
I don't know whether we would or not.
Okay, well, I would say
don't
we
know.
will. We got 7 grants on Howland. We get $149,000 every year.
Ed.
This is a connecting street, so don't make that the issue that,
I understand it's a
But that was the logic.
big issue, but we have a lot on the agenda. I know that Mr. Costa needs direction. Council can vote on whether or not to change the striping, keep the striping the way it is on Phase 1, all the way to the end of the project. before we award the bid. That's all. Council has to vote and decide what they want to do regarding the striping. Ed has, I don't know how Ed wants to change it, but I think it should stay the same.
I want to go by what you said you wanted, was just the Sharrow?
Just the Sharrow and no stripe?
With no stripe, and with the bike, whether you want to have share the road, the bicycle's entitled to use the lane, whatever.
That is what we...
And that's what we said, three different times.
I don't know if I said no
Yes,
stripe.
Yes, you did. Oh,
It
I
was
got
a
the minutes.
compromise. We said we'd put up signs, and we'd put the Sharrows, and that's what we did.
Yeah, but that's not really slowing the traffic down, Not really slowing the traffic down.
Well, just to start. It's a compromise.
Yes.
We should remember that we do have a complete streets policy in River Edge, which encourages us to build and maintain roadways with all users in mind. However, I think it's important that we do so in the context of the roadway. And having said that, I think the showers are appropriate. I don't think the striping is in the context of the roadway. And if we need a motion to remove the striping and move forward without the striping, then I would make that motion.
Why do we let traffic and safety weigh
We're
in
just
on
kicking the
this?
They
can
did.
down the road.
This was decided by traffic safety. This
We
was the
discussed
answer.
the traffic and safety prior to our discussion.
And
of the
that was what was
meeting.
brought to us, that was what they said, Sharrows and the signs.
That is what we said.
Is there minutes or anything like that?
There is.
From traffic and safety?
No,
No,
from
that
our
was
own
that was
meeting.
your report to us from the meeting.
We could go back and look, because it's on.
Whatever, let's just be done
I
with the
second the
issue.
motion. We
Wait,
made the motion.
got it here.
What's the motion?
The motion is that we remove the striping and inquire with the contractor as to whether or not the Sharrow size is correct. If it's incorrect, it's at their cost to replace it, and we move forward with Sharrows on the length of Fifth Avenue.
Sharrows, no stripe.
You said that, Mayor, in the minute you said there was a census to designate it as a bikeway by the Traffic and Safety Committee.
Yeah, bikeway.
Yes,
That's what I
which
said.
was without the striping, just because I was talking about the striping, and you said, no, it's just going to be the Sharrows with the signs. And I said, I'm okay with that. And then when I asked you for the minutes of the meeting, you said, we didn't have them, and it was the first time you had a quorum and whatever. But, so, you said, because I asked who was the consensus on the Traffic Safety Committee, we didn't have an answer for that. But that was what we decided.
Is that enough direction for you?
All right, so on Phase 2 and Phase 3, Sharrows, no stripes, no centerline stripe. no
Council
white-
wants to change their mind when there's a full council and they want to put in a stripe someday, that's
Okay, but-
up to them.
And then we're going to put
As
the
long
Sharrows...
as long as just the Sharrows with no stripe,
11 feet off the curb line, correct?
The center has to be 11 feet, yes.
but...
No, but I'm saying that's what the Sharrows...
Yeah, the center of the Sharrow is supposed to be at least 11 feet.
I think we're confident that this picture that you provided us of the fancy area in Bayhead with the mansions, that this complies with the MUTCD. If the Sharrow with no stripe doesn't comply with the MUTCD, you have to bring it to our attention.
The parking lane stripe like that doesn't comply with MUTCD itself. MUTCD shows it either has to be segregated with crosses
We're
or
going around in
with...
a circle. I'm just saying.
I don't know if it does or doesn't.
Well,
That-
this is the
that
MUTCD
does.
striping for parking, okay? That's their standards. And we talked about that. You either box them off, you put crosses, or you put the dividers. That's standard. You can have if you have a high turnover shoulder area with
We
high
need a
speed, you
motion.
might do that.
Motion
So-
and a
Motion and a second.
No, we
Let's
can't,
have a vote.
we're beating a dead horse.
Yes, I think Kathleen made a motion.
I made the motion. Did you second?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
There's only a motion and a second. We need a vote. Vote. Call the vote.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Steve?
Yes.
Councilman Menard?
Yes.
Councilmember Field?
yes.
Okay, there you go. Next, ordinance number 1836.
Mayor, this is the streetscape grant. I do want to say, before the borough engineer speaks, that the other expenses were communicated by me to bond council based on the engineer that Capital Alternatives has on staff, and I followed those recommendations for the other expenses in this grant. I added another $10,000 for bonding costs, advertising, legal, etc. So we're at $1,090,000 for this grant. excuse me, for the ordinance, the grant is $800,000. It's already been introduced. If we change the numbers, bond counsel informs me we must reintroduce the ordinance again. So tonight, I need a decision as to whether we're going to move forward with consideration for adoption, or you want to change the ordinance somehow, and we would have to reintroduce it again.
What number would we have to change it to? You said 1,090,000?
I'm not suggesting any changes, this is, provides authorization.
What's the options again? One is we have to either go with what we have, or if we don't do that, we have to reintroduce it.
Reintroduce the ordinance.
So what are the
if you
two
change.
numbers we're looking at here for
I'm
change?
not looking at any change in the numbers, but if council is interested in doing something different with regard to the other expenses that are here, that would mean a change in the dollars in the ordinance, and you would have to reintroduce.
Council,
Is council satisfied with the ordinance as is?
the majority of council is satisfied with the ordinance.
It's on for discussion.
I have a question, Mr. Costa. Have you had an opportunity to review the cost estimate for that project? For the Phase 3?
I'm not sure which one the Phase 3 is.
It's from the Ordell border south.
Christie to the Ordell border.
Is that 800,000?
Well, that was the number that
Okay, it was 800,000.
Marlene Casey put in the...
Yes.
A lot of those plans, and I gave you drawings a while ago, a lot of those plans were designed, if that's going to be in that same target area.
Well, that was one of the questions we had, because she had said,
You're going to have to change the quantities, change a few things around, but a lot of the field work was complete.
Well, that was the question I asked, because she had said that at one point that you had indicated that section was pretty much designed. That was one of her basically saying that we'd be able to get this project out there quickly, because once we got the grant, it was already essentially designed.
Well, it's designed depending on the limits of the project, because, again, we went almost to the Ordell.
But I've asked your office that question, and I just wondered if that...
No, but I dropped off the drawings a while ago.
This was a question very early on, which I don't think we frankly had an answer to.
Because when, again, going back to that March 17th meeting when Mr. Casey was here, and we were talking about that project, in addition to the bike lane, she originally said that the Phase 3 was 1.2 million. And I asked her that night, I said, what do we expect? And she said, 800,000 to $1 million. And I said, and what if it's more? And her quote was, basically, and I agree with her, your engineer is very good at scoping the project to stay within the grant limit, she said, which is what I've been advocating all along. And I said, you would include the inspection cost? She said, yes. So, but what happened was then we get, she submitted the grant for a $3.2 million project, and, we get 800,000. So now we're left with this dilemma: how much are we spending now? What should we be spending it on? So I asked if you had looked at the estimate, because I said out of the 800,000, $300,000 are for streetlights, and that's a high proportion to spend on new lights. And like I said, the operating costs, which we pay if they're unmetered, of $44 a month, which would be another $26,000 in the operating budget next year. And is that a worthwhile use of the money? So I didn't know whether you were involved in looking at this, determining what the scope was, because that was referred to traffic and safety also. We never got a report back on that, except we were told that they want to do the Phase 3 going up to the Ordell border, and whether you had the opportunity to review Ms. Casey's estimate to see whether you think that's, consistent with, what we paid in the original phase, so we know whether the 800,000 is going to get us where we need to go, or do we really need to bond over and above that?
Like I said, I wasn't involved in that grant or the
No, I'm not saying,
the only thing I did was Alan asked me to pull up all the drawings that we did, years ago, which I gave to you months ago.
That's what they used for this grant?
No, this was after the grant. This was maybe a month or two ago, to see what, I gave you a roll of drawings of what we designed many years ago, but I don't know...
That was based on Councilman Mignon's question.
Right, but I didn't go through it to see how far we could get, or where you're going from point A to point B.
All right, so you can't
grant
answer the question. So you're going to have to review the drawings.
But you do have, if you do have these drawings and not much has changed, probably about 80% of the work has already been
Yeah, I
done.
would say 80% is done.
And
You
you'd be
still
able-
have to put, you know, you're going to have to still do
Well, because
the limits of the project. You're
Yeah.
going to have to go out, you might need acquisition, you're going to have to sit down with the property owners, you're going to have to do the...
But a lot of the basic
historic- there's a lot-
legwork
I mean,
has been done.
Yes, the field work has been done, and a lot of the...
But then, in theory then, if that's the case, instead of saying that, because the way the grant was laid out, the $100,000, you applied at 10%, 80%, or $80,000 for
Yeah.
design, that
So
might
it could
be
be less
less.
than that. It might be less than that.
So, and also that the actual construction, when you actually look at what you designed versus what the cost may be, actually could be less than the 1.01 million, or the 1.1 million we're looking at now, also. So we should look at that first before we know how much money we actually need to bond.
Well, if you have, again, if you have $800,000, and that's the number you have to work with, backing out whatever other costs, but you have $800,000, from my understanding, for hard construction, not for soft costs, not for your
Correct.
bonding costs, your administration, your engineering, your project
Well,
management.
it could include inspection costs, like the DOT grant.
I'm not sure if it can.
No, she said it that night.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, I don't...
I asked her, she said she thought yes.
Okay,
She said.
then if that's the case, then I would back that number out. The maximum that the DOT allows is 15% of contract. Normally, you know, depending on who the contractor is, it shouldn't run that high. So say you have 700,000, 750,000, somewhere in there, just for hard construction.
Okay.
And use that number.
All right, can we please move on to the next? I don't know why these are on the discussion list, frankly, Alan. Ordinance number 1837, Middle School Safety Improvement Program.
Again, Mayor, the other expenses were developed using the consultant engineer. Mr. Costa did not provide, you know, the numbers for design or inspection. We have an ordinance that's introduced. It's my understanding that Councilman Mignon had some questions on duplication between this grant and the other one with regard to the sidewalks on Midland Avenue, and whether this is the same question, whether we're changing the numbers in this ordinance, which has been introduced, which means we would reintroduce this ordinance if we change any of the numbers at this point.
It's the main question. Is there a duplication between the grant that we received for the sidewalks on Midland Avenue and the grant that we received for these improvements?
They might have, I think they were part of this. One is a $150,000 grant, the other one is $300,000,
Yeah.
300,000,
Yep.
350. I think the scope, both were in the scope, but again, I don't think, if the 350 doesn't cover both projects, which I don't think it will, then it's no issue. Right now, the sidewalk project is going to be down in DOT probably by the end of this week, to ask for authorization to go out to bid.
Okay.
So that's the $150,000 that we designed that project under that 150. As far as the 300, my understanding, Al Maioki said to us that day that we could use that 300,000 for Kinderkamak Road. Whether or not you get to Midland is irrelevant.
I think he said you could pick and choose from amongst the...
That's what he said, yes.
From amongst the improvements that we had in the application.
Right.
Kinderkamak Road, there was a little on for Cherry Hill, a little for
Correct.
Roosevelt.
You could cherry pick to what you want, but again, the 150 is going to be down in DOT by the end of the week. Have Rich Lovelace sign off and go out to... Go ahead.
That's correct, but the larger point is, that 150 was scoped down from a $240,000 project to match the grant. And then they included it in the $315,000 grant. So the question is, do we still need another 100-something thousand from the new grant to do the rest of what was originally proposed for Midland and for Woodland? Because, again, your estimate was 242, and we talked about this on November 17, 2014. And basically, we said that, you know, the estimate was 242, we got 150, we talked about it. We said we were going to scope it down. The mayor agreed with Councilman Mignon to reduce the scope to the project so we come within $150,000. Now we get the other grant, and we know that the Midland sidewalks and Woodland sidewalks are also in that grant. So the question is, do we still need more money from that to go back here?
Well-
And no one's looked at the overall scope, and we're borrowing, I said we're bonding the 200 for that, and now we're...
The scope of the Midland Avenue project, regardless of, just put the money on the side for 1 minute. Curbs, 6-foot sidewalk, remove the trees that are there, replant the trees, make that safe, put in the crosswalks, and put in the solar-powered crosswalks also, the signage. On Woodland, put a sidewalk. We sat down with the property owners, built a small retaining wall because of the grade. You have a couple tree removals, do the crosswalks there, do the ADA compliant ramps, and move on. Whether it costs $150, $200, or a little bit more, so be it. But from my understanding, we're doing that project. Whether we take the money from the grant
No,
here,
I'm not
or
disputing
there,
that.
or
What I'm saying is that we're bonding for this other project now, or being asked to bond for, and we don't know what the scope is. And I'm saying, is there duplicate scope, or we don't know?
The only scope that I know that I'm tasked to do is to get that project done and get it under construction the minute after school stops in June. That we should have a contractor on board, ready to go, not to impact schools. That's what I'm tasked with. Where the money comes from, I don't know.
It's not that I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the other project, because I said that work is included in that grant application, that's all.
As far as the other project, I personally haven't done anything. Like I said, I'm only tasked with one thing, and that plan will be down in DOT on no later than Friday of this
Well,
week.
then maybe we should direct that to traffic safety to look at the overall scope of the 2 grants, and then see what we can do with the $315,000 we have left at the, with the newer grant.
Okay, but
Before we decide
I
that
guess what
we're-
it depends with is what the bid. The ultimate thing is you put this job out to bid, and it's going to be dictated on what the low bid is. That's where you're at. Whether I give you an estimate saying it's going to cost $1, it's going to cost $1.50. Right now, until you get that bid and get a contractor, that's what you're going to know what it is.
All right, Resolution 1599, catch basin on 284 Kensington Road.
Mayor, if I may, we received a proposal from Mr. Costa for, what was it, $8,600 or $8,000?
Yeah, Alan, I looked at this with John Lynch with the roadway, whether or not we could just pave it. You're going to have to put in piping, a couple of inlets, and you're actually going to have to put in an inlet and fix the outflow, which I sent you photos on, in the park area because the pipe has washed away.
So the project is much
It's
bigger
bigger
than what
than
we had originally discussed in sewer subcommittee.
Correct.
That's what drove the request for the proposal.
Correct. You're not going to be able to do it with just 3 quotes in order to...
We had also anticipated some catch basins on Elm Avenue, and there's a couple of other on Wayne that have come up now, so
Right.
we probably should sit down in committee and discuss the scope of the project at this point.
Now, the only thing I didn't realize we didn't get... We did the field work on Kensington because I thought you wanted this bid separately in order to then fall in with the resurfacing of Fifth Avenue.
Well, we thought it was a simple job of just the catch basin being
Right.
replaced, and that would just require quotations. But
Can it be
something
phased also,
different.
because get the basin in where we need to get it so we can pave, and
Right.
the outfall's going to be, right now the outfall is the way it is anyway, and that water's going there anyway.
Right.
So why can't we split it and get the basins in, so we can do the paving on Kensington and Fifth, and then address the outfall as a separate project?
No question we can, no doubt. But I walked in the woods to see where this, once we
And the
hook all this
question-
up, where
is
does
that-
the water
is-
go? I walked in the
well,
woods, I'm saying,
is that our-
here's a head wall with no pipe.
Is that in the park? Is it our head walls of the counties?
I don't know. I have a catch basin that says County of Bergen. I say the picture.
I know, they say that all the time.
And
but,
I get a letter back from the county saying, well, that's not ours. Okay.
If it's in their park,
I don't know. The answer is I know one thing, it needs to get fixed. That much I do know.
but to me, the critical thing is getting the water, because I
You need to get
I
the
went out there
water.
yesterday purposefully, and it's essentially, I'm not sure you see it, it's running down Fifth. It's coming out Fifth right around that
It comes down
corner.
Fifth, comes around the corner. That's why you're going to have to put 3 basins in to fix this
So,
problem.
I think we should move forward, at least getting that part in, so we can get it paved, because to delay it and not pave that street till another time would be,
Mayor, we'll move this contract forward at the next meeting, and we'll do it as Councilman Vignon had suggested.
Can we move it forward today?
If you want to award the proposal for $8,000 to Mr. Costa.
I'll put a rush on the
So
project.
I would like to
At
make
least
a
get that
motion
first- I'll get it
to
up
award
to
the
bid.
proposal to
That
Mr.
would be
Costa
done
to
at
start
public meeting,
the,
Mayor.
start the project.
Put the resolution on
Yes.
for a public meeting.
Can you also Can you give me authorization to go out to bid once the plans are complete then?
For what?
For the catch basins on Kensington? I think
Well,
that's-
it's going to be under $36,000, between $5,400 and $36,000.
No way.
To put the basins in, that falls into a
You
separate project.
gotta run almost 300 feet of pipe.
No, we're not talking about the pipe now. We need to discuss this in committee, we really do. Because I'm not sure we have, I'd like to know we have the financing for what you're proposing. I'd like to see an engineering estimate on what you're proposing
Okay.
before we go out to bid.
Well, then if we can get a meeting prior to next month's, talk to
Well,
Mr. Lynch.
just very simply, you have two catch basins at the end as you go into the church parking lot. There's two catch basins. There's no pipe from there towards Fifth Avenue. So for us to install catch basins on Kensington, you need a pipe to connect to those catch basins. So you're talking at least 200 or 300 feet of pipe.
There's a catch basin there now, right?
But Mr. Costa, right, it's at the end.
It's at
not on
the end. It's at where the street stops and where you go into the
Parking lot.
church parking lot.
Right.
So it's at least 300-400 feet from there to Fifth
If there's no
Avenue.
pipe, it's not even working.
There's no pipe. And then where the pipe is, where that picks up, once you get to
You're
the
talking about a
park.
much larger job.
That's why I
We
said-
need to examine it.
There's no,
Can't do it in 30 seconds here.
Are we delaying anything because of, having to wait for a committee, or is there some delay
We have
happening here?
Paving of the street, possibly.
We have a sewer subcommittee that
When
deals
is
with
the
these
next
issues.
meeting, so
we
that-
just met
Once a month.
this week,
Yeah.
so
So it's
I'm
another
asking
month.
Al if he could set up one in the interim, so we don't need to wait another month, that's all.
Next on the list is a broken curb at 753 Summit Avenue. The homeowner has been to a council meeting and wrote us a letter.
I spoke to paving contractor today. He will go there and fix the curb.
Okay, Community Development Block Grant, curb and sidewalk replacements.
Mayor, I can report, Mr. Costa's office is working on revising the specifications to make it an open-ended bid. They were working on that today.
Yeah, it should be finished today, tomorrow.
That's fine.
If Scott didn't finish it, probably tomorrow it'll be done.
Authorization to go out to bid is on tonight's meeting.
Okay. Tell me tomorrow morning and we'll get it in motion.
And does that include the county ADA ramp?
No, that would be a separate issue. Where we left off with that was Mr. Costa was going to speak with the county officials, the engineering department, with regard to the amount of engineering they were allowing and the amount of money they were allowing for the ramps on Kennington Ave, given the fact that those ramps will probably need additional work on public streets and difference in grades and things like that.
Right.
All right.
We never got an answer on that from them?
So, I don't
No.
know.
Anything else, Mr. Costa?
They authorized that, and May 1st, concrete construction was supposed to start doing the ramps. Obviously, they haven't started. We're in
Is
June
that the one where
already.
you hand-delivered it?
No, that was the other one. That was the other one I hand-delivered is the next day.
Which one was the one you hand-delivered?
Community development. That's the one that'll be ready to go to bid by tomorrow or the following day.
So by hand-delivering it, we have something that's moving forward. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Costa.
Okay.
I just want to, let's see. We have to go into our public meeting. I know we have people from the Rec Commission and the car show here. I know we have other members of the public here. I would like to address council on other issues. I think what I'd like to do is move to I'd like to move to I'd like to open to the public.
So
What
moved.
I'd like to do. Is
Second?
there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're open to the public. Would anyone of the public like to speak? Yes, sir. Please, just give us your name and address.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council.
Former councilman, Mr. Higgins.
Alan, pleasure to see you.
Nice to see you.
I'm here just to speak very briefly about this issue of the 24-hour ordinance. The issue is ripe right now because 7-Eleven will be finished with their project very soon, and presumably the store will begin to operate sometime during the summer. There are approximately 9 homes on Clarendon Court whose windows face 7-Eleven, including bedroom windows. So that there is a real issue of noise, lights from the interior of the store, the landmark, the elevation sign. And now that we're in the summer months and people have their windows open, there's going to be noise from cars who are parking in front, car doors slamming. And in addition to that, because this is a 24/7 operation, presumably there are going to be deliveries made not only during the course of the day, but perhaps during the evening hours too, into the nighttime. That could mean a large truck or trucks pulling into the parking lot and offloading. So the question now is a question of balance. We're balancing the concern of the business to operate on a 24/7 schedule, and opposed to that, or I should say, a concern for the residents, is the tranquility and comfort. And this is an issue that goes beyond just clarity in court, because once the precedent is established and other businesses set up in different parts of the town, you're going to have other residents, in addition to myself, coming forward and raising this concern. So the question really is one of reasonableness as you take a look at the ordinance. And when you look at the activity in town, most of the restaurants on Kinderkamak are closing pretty much around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, perhaps maybe a little bit later during the summer hours or on Friday or Saturday nights. But after that, activity really slows down dramatically. So my recommendation to you, with your consideration, is to limit the hour of operation to 11 o'clock at night. And I think that affords the business a sufficient number of hours to function, hopefully successfully, but also takes into consideration the needs and concerns of the residents. So I'd ask you, as you begin your deliberation, to take that into consideration and hopefully strike a balance that accommodates the needs of the business and also takes into consideration the tranquility and the concerns of the residents. So thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Anybody else like to be heard? Yes.
Sandra Berman, 373 Oak Avenue, and Floridetta, Jefferson. 200 Jefferson Avenue. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
And the councilwomen and councilmen. When I left the council meeting 2 weeks ago, I was followed into the elevator by a very tall man. He looked to be well over 6 feet tall. As the elevator door closed, he began mumbling something about the ordinance and then turned to me and started calling me names, obscenities, over and over again. He was a complete stranger, and I was very frightened of him. Finally, the elevator door opened and he ran out of the elevator, but he continued turning around to yell more obscenities at me in the hallway. I still get very upset just thinking about that horrible experience. I have since learned who that man is. His mother was at the meeting on May 18th, and she is one of the members of SCORE who has been disrespectful, insulting, and rude to me. She is aware of how her son behaved in the elevator, nearly frightening me to death. The problem is that she most likely encouraged this type of behavior. What can be done about this person, Ann Osmondson, a member of SCORE, who has condoned her son's behavior when I discussed it with her? She didn't seem a bit surprised when I told her how he treated me in the elevator. An apology would have been a normal thing to do. I would like to know if the code of conduct mentioned in the bylaws can address this situation.
Mayor, I'll answer that first. Obviously, if there was any criminal activity, terroristic threats or anything, then it does not involve this mayor and council. Ms. Berman should report it to the police department and or file a complaint against the individual. With regard to the code of conduct, that involves the conduct that happens at SCORE involving members. It doesn't address members, friends, relatives outside of SCORE. Code of conduct was put in because of the incidents that were occurring last year, which prompted all of this to start, and we needed some type of code of conduct during the meetings. What happens outside of the SCORE does not involve SCORE or the mayor and council. So that code of conduct regulates what the conduct of members at the meeting.
Mrs. Berman, was there a witness to
Yes.
this? Well, then, it sounds, and the individual that allegedly made these statements, he was not a member of SCORE? Is that correct? The individual that made these statements,
Who was telling me this?
he's not a member of SCORE?
He's only maybe 50-something.
Okay, so what you
Doesn't
should
have to
do
be
is
60.
take your witness and go next door to the police department and report it. And then the police will handle it from that point on. There's nothing that the mayor and council can do for you.
It's on the premises, right here.
Well, I know, that's why I'm advising you to take your witness who allegedly heard what you just described and make a report to the police department.
The fact that his mother condoned the issue and...
You should explain it to the police department. They will investigate. They will investigate. That's the only information we can give you.
Well, a lot of the problems I spoke about this behavior during the meetings and on SCORE property does mean that it was SCORE members. This was happening about SCORE members.
I understand. That's why I'm asking you to report it to the police department and bring your witness with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have on the annual, what?
It's 8:02.
8:02, I know, but
We can go back in.
Where's next topic?
let's do the River Edge Car Show because we have members here.
Yeah,
Well, we're going to have the public speak. We're still open to the public. Anybody else would like to address council? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was having trouble having the Shade Tree Commission respond to my call. I had an email from the mayor who emailed the Shade Tree Commission, and they have agreed to now take down 2 trees. My question is, some years back, they removed a tree in front of my house on River Edge property, which I knew nothing about. I came home from work and it was gone. And then they eventually came back and replaced the tree. They did not put it on River Edge property. They stuck it in the middle of my yard. There again, I was not home. And came home and found it there. Does that mean, a couple of questions, does that mean that I am responsible now for that tree? If should something happen to it, it's been fine, but if there winds up being a problem with that, is that my responsibility because it's now on my property, even though I did not put it there?
If the Shade Tree Commission planted that tree, they planted it somewhere within the public right-of-way, which means, go ahead,
name and address, I apologize.
name and address, please.
June Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y, 65 Lakeview Street.
Thank you.
So if the River Edge Shade Tree Commission planted that tree that magically appeared in your front yard, they planted it within what is called the public right-of-way, which is a distance from the curb line. It includes the curb, the sidewalk, and some footage of your front yard. So the borough would be responsible if there was an issue with that tree.
Oh, the borough would be responsible, okay.
Because it planted it.
Now, once, do I get any kind of notification as to when these 2 trees will be coming down?
No, now that, do they have a mark on them?
My husband says they do, I didn't notice it, but I did get a thing on my little doorknob that says 2 trees will be taken, but it doesn't say anything about when. And then ultimately, what will happen when I want to have a tree replaced? Do I have to then come here and make I don't have a
What happens is that the trees, now that they're marked, will go on a list with the Department of Public Works, and when the Department of Public Works gets around to it, because there's other trees on the list and worse shape than yours, the tree will be removed, and then there's another time period in order to get the stump removed, because that's a different list, and the stump list is very long, and then after the stump is removed, then you can request through the Shade Tree Commission for a new tree.
I see. And am I ever notified as to when that first tree is going to come out?
We could ask,
I have to be honest.
Councilwoman
I
Murphy.
was trying
She
to
can
look
check
at
with
when I
DPW
originally reported it, and I got the answering machine that said, your phone call will not be returned. It just seems like there's no communication.
That's because, Mrs. Murray, you have to understand that, and we've had other residents, including you, speak about the telephone message at the Shade Tree Commission, which, based upon similar complaints as you're expressing tonight, the message has been changed. But the Shade Tree Commission are all volunteer, so that is the reason that you don't get the same level of service you would from a paid municipal employee.
The people that take down the trees are...
The Department of Public Works. If you call the Department of Public Works and you give them your address, they can confirm that your tree is on the list. They may be able to tell you if it's at the bottom of the list or the top of the list or somewhere in the middle. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard? All right, let's begin the 8 o'clock meeting. If we could all stand for a moment of silent prayer or reflection. If we could have Mr. Negrian lead us in a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies in which any business affecting your interest is discussed or acted upon. The mayor and council of the borough of River Edge have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having a date, time, and place posted in the borough hall. Notices were sent to the Record and the Ridgewood News. The mission of our governing bodies to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy, safeguarding the infrastructure, providing honest, courteous, professional services, establishing a sense of trust and accomplishment with our residents. We do this through research and prudent planning, seeking to minimize municipal risks and public liabilities while improving the delivery of services. We are sensitive to the needs of our taxpayers while realizing that the governing body cannot be all things to all people due to revenue constraints that are imposed by state mandates, present economic conditions, prevailing attitudes about taxation. We are being recorded both by video and audio for purposes of making a public record of this meeting. If during the public portion of the meeting any member of the public wishes to be heard, they need only identify themselves and they can make a statement. We have 3 fire exits in council chambers, 1 to each side of the dais and 1 to the rear. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Here.
Councilman Solo.
Here.
Councilman Steve.
Here.
Councilman Young.
Here.
Councilman Slater.
Present.
And Councilman Papalayo is absent. Please let the record reflect that Mayor Sandy Montalcolo and Borough Attorney Thomas Harlow are also present.
Okay, can I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council work session meeting for May the 4th, 2015?
So moved.
Abstain.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I abstain.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstained?
I abstain.
1 abstention. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the mayor and council work session, a regular meeting of May 18th?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? This evening, we do not have any proclamations or awards. I'd like to take the opportunity to open to the public on any issue that is on the agenda this evening. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Or would any member of the public like to speak on any issue that is currently on our 8 o'clock agenda? Yes.
My name is Peter Lindsay of Wantage, New Jersey. I'm appearing as a member of the public on the subject of the River Edge Car Show. I understand that I'm a participant in the car show. I've shown my car a number of years. I've served as a judge from time to time. I understand there's some concern over the impact that cars could have on the turf of the park, and also potential for anything leaking out of cars, environmental problems. I have been involved with restoring and showing antique cars for almost 40 years, and there are many, many car shows. I would say that over half of the car shows I've attended over these years are on turf, and they still are. Two I would cite is very large car shows. There's one held for, since 1963 in Macungie Borough, Pennsylvania. It supports Macungie Memorial Park. They have ball fields, children's swings area, municipal pool, band shell. It's all on turf. It's a 3-day event, over 800 cars per day, along with flea market, craft show, entertainment. The turf survives. The Antique Automobile Club of America holds the world's largest antique car show every October, as they have since 1955. The past several years, it's held on what was a former golf course. We were talking 1,000 cars, all on turf. And in that case, they are all really right adjacent to a sensitive creek. If there was any environmental problems with discharge from the cars, I'm sure there'd be an issue there. The parking, the general parking there is several thousand cars in hayfields that are actually in the floodplain of the Swarta Creek. I've never heard of any issues raised over anything coming out of cars. My experience with the antique cars is that they may be better maintained than the average family car on the road, so that there may be less coming out of these vehicles than what's on the road. And plus, whatever is being discharged currently is going onto Continental Drive. It's going directly into the sewer system and into the Hackensack River. When you're on turf, it's going to go into the dirt. It's going to have more chance to evaporate or dissipate before it gets into the waste stream. I'm familiar with your park. I can't say that the landscaping there is durable. It's hard packed soil, a lot of roots, a lot of under the canopies of the trees. Now, as far as I can see from my experience with car shows, I really don't see how a reasonable number of cars could really do any harm to the park.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Anybody else? All right. Can I have a motion to close this portion of the meeting to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have appointments and personnel changes. First, we have the hiring of Francis Garra as a part-time seasonal park attendant for the Rec Commission at an hourly rate of $18.69, not to exceed 12 hours per week. This matter was on for discussion with the Personnel Subcommittee that Ed and I attended this evening, and I believe it was recommended. Is that correct, Ed?
Yes.
We recommend, the Personnel Committee recommended this. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I think the only question was to find out if there were any physical requirements for the position.
I'll check on that there.
Next is to approve the resignation of David Racconati from as police dispatcher.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There is correspondence that is listed on your agenda that is available for review at the clerk's office, including letters and notices from various other governmental agencies. In addition, there are monthly reports that are on file and available for review from the public, from the beautification committee, and from the tax collector. We have one ordinance on this, we have two ordinances on this evening for first reading, beginning with ordinance number 1838. Madam Clerk, can you read the title?
Ordinance 1838, an ordinance to amend ordinance 1820 to fix the salary, wage, and compensation of the officers and employees of the Borough of River Edge in the County of Bergen and the State of New Jersey for the year 2015.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and there's a second to adopt this for first reading. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilwoman
Yes.
Murphy? Councilman Capolo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Steve?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Peters?
Yes.
All right, this ordinance will be advertised in the official newspapers, and then it will be scheduled for a public hearing and a vote on final adoption. Next is ordinance number 1839. Madam Clerk, can you read the title?
Ordinance 1839, an ordinance appropriating $12,000 from the general capital fund balance for the purchase of vehicle from the River Edge Volunteer Ambulance Service.
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. This is to assist the River Edge Volunteer Ambulance Service in purchasing a new fire vehicle, and it will eventually lead,
Ambulance, yeah.
I believe, to, what did I say? Did I
Fire-
say- Did I say?
fire,
Okay,
yeah.
fire, ambulance vehicle. Is this also covering the cost of purchasing the vehicle for the DPW, or would
Yes,
that be separate?
this is the purchase of the
Even Steven.
vehicle
For the DPW?
for the DPW.
And John also said that this may also not require us to buy another vehicle under next year's capital budget, so
Which
we'll
will
be
save-
delayed
Did you get
that.
that?
Will save us a
that
bunch of money.
Well, he said it, and I'm saying it here, so.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I guess this is an ordinance, so we'll have to have a roll call.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Capolo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Steve?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
And Councilman Peters?
Yes.
All right, next we have an ordinance on for second reading. This is ordinance number 1835. Madam Clerk, can you read the title?
Ordinance 1835, bond ordinance to authorize the resurfacing of Fifth Avenue, Section 3, from approximately 20 feet north of Wayne Avenue to approximately 30 feet south of North Drive. A general improvement and the construction and reconstruction of sidewalks, curbs, and driveway aprons along and in front of such section of Fifth Avenue. A sidewalk improvement in, by, and for the Borough of River Edge and the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $195,000 to pay the cost thereof, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
All right. I have a motion to open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 1835.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would any member of the public wish to be heard on ordinance number 1835, which is to improve sidewalks, curbs, and driveway aprons along a section of Fifth Avenue? Seeing no one, I'll ask that the public hearing on ordinance number 1835 be closed. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to move for final adoption, ordinance number 1835?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Capolo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Steve?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Alan, this is for phase 3, correct?
Section 3.
Section 3, so not the phase, this is when we just, Mr. Costa said we just got the grant for this evening.
This is the last grant that we got for Section 3.
Thank you. Yes.
And Councilman Steve?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next, we have resolutions on our consent agenda. Would any member of the governing body like to pull out for discussion or separate vote any resolution on the consent agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to move the consent agenda up to, but not including 15-226?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we have our finance chair read and move 15-226, the payment of bills?
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas vouchers for the payment of goods and services rendered to the Borough of River Edge have been received, and whereas each bill has been checked by the receiving department approved by the Chief Financial Officer and Borough Clerk, and reviewed by the 3 members of the Finance Committee. Excuse me. Now therefore be it resolved that bills as listed now be confirmed for payment from the appropriate funds as follows. Current account, $362,080.86. Capital account, $37,545.21. Recreation account, $1,572.44. Trust other account, $17,261.91. Open space account, $4,778.14. So moved.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Thank you. All right, now can I have a motion to open to the public on any issue?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, would any member of the public like to be heard on any issue? Sure.
Good evening. Peter Dunsey, 446 Oak Avenue. I am the trustee, the liaison to the River Edge Car Show from the Cultural Center. The Cultural Center thanks Mayor and Council for the time to help resolve the issues that we'll be talking about. The Cultural Center has enjoyed for 20 years good relations with the River Edge Public Schools, the Riverdale Public Schools, all the religious institutions in town, the library, the Friends of the Library, the Ambulance Corps, the neighbors that are adjacent to the Cultural Center and the car show, as well as the River Edge Volunteer Fire Department, who we've opened up the food vendor position at no cost to the fire department to participate in the car show for their benefit. We run what is probably the best little car show in northern New Jersey. It has very loyal attendance, and people come because of the quality of the show, the ambiance, and the general feeling about it. The car show benefits the residents of River Edge, the Cultural Center, as well as the participants in the car show. We are requesting permission to park cars, which many of them would be considered works of art, in the park on the grass, which is the central issue of what the dispute has been about. In addition, we have requested, going back to January 16th, the street closing for Continental and the cul-de-sac. We are committed, and we've said over and over again, any grass lawn area that we are granted permission to have the show on, we will, at the cost to the Cultural Center, have the area restored, actually upgraded. There are existing ruts there now, and if that's the area that we're talking about, the ruts will be eliminated. And not only will they be eliminated, as talked about earlier, that it would be September with seed, we have studied it further, and we've had an offer, and we would do it with sod, and it would be done before the 4th of July and before the car show. And we are prepared to do whatever it takes. The biggest issue actually turns out to be water, and we will make arrangements. We have very good relations with the neighbors who are providing electricity for the show, and we go one step further and provide water to see to it the sod takes. To the extent that we are given real estate, that would be the extent that we would improve the park. If we were given 100 square feet, it would be 100 square feet. If 1,000 square feet, it would be 1,000. It's to the extent that people are willing to share that we're willing to improve. And lastly, this has been going on for a long time. We don't choose to have that happen. We made our application in January. We have planning to do.
we have resources together to allocate, not only with equipment, but with staff as well. We have to know where we're going. So we're here tonight to try to get a resolution of this matter.
All right.
You went and had another meeting, correct?
On April 6th, we were asked to go and have another meeting to specifically, it was said, to compromise. And so,
April and May,
April 6th, we were here
right?
at Borough.
When Councilman Acquafredo was chairing the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And we understand that the commission had the River Edge Run coming up, and we respect that. Although we would prefer to have a separate meeting, but it was held in May. Not that it wasn't discussed in April at the Rec Commission meeting, but we were present at the May meeting where we were asked to attend. 3 times we said we're here to try to get this resolved. 3 times it was the same position. There was no changing, which compromise basically is you move off the position where you were, which we were prepared to do.
The compromise was 10, which, you know, I think previously it was 6, and then it became 10. The 6 included a $2,000 bond. Was there a lot more hoops that you had to go through with the 6?
By getting the years,
And now it went from 6, and then it went to 10, and then that was it, right? And then there was been no other
Last-
movement.
last year, the number came about because of the concerns about emergency vehicles
Right.
and access.
Mhm.
And if you took that and you placed that in a certain position, it worked out that you could have 10 cars. So it wound up with the 10 cars. We didn't like it. We lived with it. It turned out that it was not the showplace of the car show last year because it wasn't meaningful to have 10 cars
Well,
there.
Mr. Dunsey, you asked for 10 cars. You first there were no cars. Then, not 3 years ago, you were able to convince the council to give you 6 cars. Then, the following year, you didn't make any request, right?
Correct.
Then, last year, the council sent you to negotiate something with the rec, and you wound up coming back here and asking this council for 10 cars, and the council gave you 10 cars. And then this year, it's like the swallows a Capistrano every single year. And then this year, you came here, you went to rec, they told you, no, we don't want any cars, but you got 10 last year, so we're not going to budge anymore. And then you came to the meeting with Councilman Acquafredo chairing it, and he told you, go back and try to negotiate something with rec. And then you went to the May meeting of rec, and I attended the meeting, but I got there late. I was really there for the risk management portion of it. But my observation was that when I got there, you and rec were already at loggerheads, and nobody was budging. Rec was saying, you know, we made our position clear years ago that we don't want any cars in the park, but you've got 10, and that's all you're getting. And you kept saying, I'm here to negotiate something, and you're not negotiating. And that was my take on it, is that nobody was giving an inch. So now you're back here tonight, and you know, what if rec was willing to negotiate? I know that the numbers were all over the place, 150 cars, 80 cars, put them on the grass, don't put them on the grass. What are you looking for?
We're looking for putting cars in the grass and get that issue behind us.
Well, I don't think this council, and I'm only speaking for myself, I don't think this council is going to tell rec where you can put the cars, whether it's on grass or on pavement. I think it's going to be up to rec to decide if you're going to put them all on the walkway or all on the grass. That's what I think. I don't think we're going to micromanage the car show and rec. What I'm interested in is, do you want 80 cars? Do you want 20 cars? Do you want 12 cars? Because if you only want 12 cars and it's only 2 more than last year, and nothing went wrong when you had the 10, and nothing went wrong when you had the 6, then it's not such a big deal. But what are you looking for? This is what...
How many cars?
This is... Rec should have had this kind of conversation with you.
We would say that 25 cars would make a meaningful draw. However...
Wait, 25 cars.
Yes.
That's your number, 25 cars.
Yes.
And you'll never come back to the council again. You'll never come back to the council again. And rec will decide...
We're trying to demonstrate...
Hold it. I'm trying to move this along.
Okay. Yes.
You want 25 cars, and rec will decide if you're allowed to put them on the grass, and if rec says, no grass, put them on the walkway, you'll put them on the walkway.
I thought the 10 was the limit the walkway was able to take, and that's how they came up with that number last year. I don't think they were able to put 25.
And also with all the police
Yes, it was.
and
That's what-
safety issues.
I'm just trying to get some parameters
Am I correct?
here.
Okay, I was correct.
I'm just trying to get. I'm sure we're going to hear from members of the rec commission that are here tonight. But I'm just trying to get some parameters down. You're looking for 25 cars.
Correct.
Don't come back next year and say I'm looking for 30 cars, because I don't think the council or the mayor want to get into this in the future. We just want everybody to play nice in the sandbox.
So it's 25 to life.
But Mayor, I asked Mr. Dunn to say one question. We got in our packets again, his request, and it was the same request that he gave last time, showing the shading all around the park with, if there was, 25 was your number, why didn't you send the council a representation saying, here's our 25 cars, this is where we'll put them? You sent me and the rest of the council the same thing showing 80, 90, or 100 cars. So I don't understand what kind of negotiation is that, like the mayor's right, you went from 10 and then you're up, you're showing us something that's up to 100. So
what I'm thinking is that neither the rec commission or Mr. Dunsey are really interested in negotiating a compromise. They just have loggerheads over their position. I'm trying to mediate something.
I beg to differ. Every statement that I made was prefaced that we're here to compromise or we're here to negotiate.
I remember you making those statements.
And I never once said that I would not budge off something.
No, I realize that.
And it's been said several times that we were loggerheads. No, I was not, quote, intransigent. I was there to resolve the matter. And we have been to them twice.
Yes,
and if
I
you
understand
listen
that.
to,
But
and if you listen, and you listen to, and you listen to,
I saw Chris Lau.
Yeah.
Chris Lau was there, and he was trying to pin you down with a number. He was trying. Am I correct? He was trying to say, Peter, what number are you? And you wouldn't give him a number.
Right. And this is why, and I'll tell you why. It's the concept about being on the grass. If you are on the grass, and you can put together something that artistically works out, that it's meaningful, that's a number. If you are on the macadam, then you are constrained in a different manner. So to answer the question fairly, you have to know the concept first. Now, numerous people have said that no harm would come to the grass, no harm would come to the lawn. The truth be known, the ruts and the drippings and the conditions of the lawn have nothing to do with the car show. Those ruts are there for years,
I know, there's pre-existing conditions in the
which
park.
we don't take issue with.
Right.
Because if we're placed in a location where there's going to be ruts, guess what? Before the car show, there'll be no ruts. There'll be what there should be, a decent lawn.
Okay.
If there would be a dripping of oil, we would dig it out, we would replace it, and it would be the way it should be, not the way that it's been for years. When you listen to the arguments made, they keep piling on to have reasons, but there's nobody that takes the matter in hand. They are the stewards for the park, and yet the park is miserable. The lawn is miserable. Wherever we go, it'll be far improved.
All right,
I have one other
I
question.
got to disagree
Sorry.
with you over the condition of the park, because it's a beautiful park.
You also had mentioned previously about getting some FM radio station that you were willing to, some kind of device to talk over. You were going to invest in that and share it with everyone?
When we have the 4th of July,
Huh?
about 50% of the people are already in the park. And there are people being honored at the 4th of July that nobody gets to hear because the PA only goes so far. We are investing in wireless systems that we were prepared to make benefit for the town so that they would have that.
Is that
Because
still
we were
on
going to have it
is
for
that
the car show.
offer still on the table?
No, not after the way we were treated. No, not at all.
All right,
I mean,
now...
if we
wait a
could
minute.
come and we could have a reasonable meeting of the minds and do something that's a win-win-win, yeah, of course. But to have to go to a situation and be literally spurned over and over again, no, we have, why? Why would we do that? We are prepared to work with you, improve the park, have the car show, demonstrate that no harm comes to anything. In fact, it would be vastly improved than what exists today. And if you need to see the photographs of the ruts and the lawns and the bare spots, we could show you those. We're trying to go positive here.
Now, if you're able to put 25 cars in the park, are you still going to use the library parking lot
Yes.
for the display of cars?
Yes,
You are?
yes. The reason is the library parking lot affords us 45 spaces, so 25 and 45
Peter,
is
I don't
still
know
going
where
to
you
place
get your
25.
numbers from, because I walked the library parking lot just yesterday,
Yes,
and there are 34 parking places, including the 2 handicap spaces in the library parking lot.
right.
34.
Not 45.
Not
And then
45.
there's down the center. We put cars down the center.
There weren't cars down the center last year.
There weren't cars down the center last year.
No, because last year we had 199, and we figure around 225. So that's the last space to fill. So with some people leave early and we infill, so we didn't have to. But that's the capacity that we plan for there.
Is Elm Street in front of the library, is that closed to traffic or is it open to traffic?
It's open to traffic, it's restricted to parking.
There's no barricades up at the, there's no barricade up? You can drive all the way to the corner of Continental?
You can go the full length of Elm,
Yeah,
there's
okay.
no restriction.
All right, okay.
We requested the cul-de-sacs so that we could guide visitors for visitor parking to be at the cul-de-sac.
That's another issue, cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac is not under the Borough Commission's jurisdiction.
No?
The cul-de-sac is not under the purview of the Rec Commission.
That's right.
So why bring up the cul-de-sacs?
Because we put our request in on January 16th to the police department, we haven't received back an answer.
Guess they're waiting to find out.
Could be.
what's happening.
But the cul-de-sac area is the area that we would encourage visitors to the car show to park, because a lot of people really don't know it, so we'll have signs letting them know that it's there.
Well,
If you call-
why don't you let visitors park in the church, in the library parking lot?
Because we need that space currently for, if we had the
It's
original
only
number-
34 cars. If
we
you
had-
put those 34 cars in the park, then you can use the library to park visitors.
One thought is that the library parking lot would be a Mustang corral, because we have a significant number of Mustangs, and we might be able to put them all in the same place, which we're not always able to do on the street. That aside, the real issue is, are we going to have an opportunity to make the lawn better than it now is, better than it's been in years?
Anthony?
Thank you, Mayor. My notes.
I'm just checking.
The rec does a great job, the car show does a great job. I agree with the car show. The car show should have cars in the park. I disagree with the rec. However, and I've made this public, I respect the rec's jurisdiction. If I were in the shoes of the car show, I would ask the same thing. Let us expand. The rec they're saying no, I'd be upset with the rec, and that would be it. I would take my ball and go home, because that leads to the second point. And again, I have no dog in the fight either way. If the cars are in the park, I'm happy, because I go to the car show every year. If they're not in the park, I'm going to go to the car show. The car show does a great job. But that's the second thing, to hear, to say, well, X amount of car shows are done on grass, whatever, 5, 6, 7 out of 10. But that presupposes that there's no car show. There's a car show in town. So you already have a car show. This whole, to step back, it's like there's no car show and we want to start one now, and it's going to be in the park. We already have a car show, and it's an awesome car show. So that's the other thing too. I think to kind of just zoom out a little bit and take things in context. We're not saying you can't have a car show and you can't expand the car show. It's just this particular jurisdiction. So again, to say, car shows are on grass all over here and there, that's fine. But again, we have a car show though. So I just want to throw that out there, trying to be neutral about it, but just making an observation.
Good point.
Well, that's...
Mayor, I got one question. Mr. Dante, you said you were expecting 225 this year?
We planned around 225 cars. Last year,
Yes, at
it was
199.
very hot, and so people who actually registered didn't come. If they had, we probably would have had about another 10.
What's the maximum number you've ever had in any year?
We had 200, it was actually 226, and it was the year the double-decker bus came as well.
And how did you configure all the cars?
Some
to
people
accommodate-
left early, versus...
But you were able to accommodate the 226 without
Yeah,
going to
well,
the park
it
at all?
was, we were scratching our head when the double-decker bus showed up.
But to my point, you were able to accommodate 226 cars without going in the park at all at that point.
Yes, but this is a definite enhancement. It makes-
I'm not arguing that point. I'm just
Well,
asking whether it's
let me
physically
explain
spaced to put 225 cars with or without the park.
There are a lot of car clubs that like to come. The only way they can park next to each other is if they come exactly at the same time. Because the way we park them as they come. If we have a little bit of flexibility, then we can say to people, come before 8:30, from 8 to 8:30, and these people will all be pre-interviewed if they would be candidates that could go into the park, and they would be parked between 8 and 8:30. And we know we have that, and they're there. And the deal is, they don't leave until the show's over. We have people that we'd like to have that are Mustangs, and we were thinking of having the Mustang Corral, and that would be at the library parking lot. And they too, similarly, would have specific instructions and cards in a different color that we'd issue, and they'd go to that lot. It gives us flexibility. We have no flexibility. We're tight as a drum. When the cars come, we have to take them as they appear. They may not like the spot that we're giving them, but we don't have any choice. Where we give them, that's where they have to go. The only ones we've been able to accommodate are the T-Birds, which we put in the Cultural Center parking lot, and that we have an area set aside for them, so when they come, they go in there. After that, our flexibility goes out the window. We don't have any. By being able to go into the park, we can enhance the show. Because if you want to see all cars that were a certain vintage, we now could place them close to each other, which we can't do now. The show, every year that we've been doing it, and this will be the 15th year, we continuously do lessons learned. We build on we learn from our mistakes, we build. For years, there's been momentum growing about going into the park. There are a lot of positives for everybody. If we choose not to do it, then we just go about, we plan for this year's show, and that's it.
So you could say, all cars, like any car manufactured before 1940, could be in it, like the Model A's or the Model T's, they could be...
That was the original concept.
Or they could be in one section.
That's exactly it.
All
Those
the
are the cars.
T-Birds could be in one section.
We were using 50 years. Any vehicles that are 50 years or over are the ones that we were considering to be candidates to go into the park.
It sounds like a good idea.
Well, we thought so for a long time. And we're trying to demonstrate, look, there hasn't been a single agreement in 20 years that we haven't kept. And the reasons that are given are all addressable. The concern about ruts, there have been ruts there forever. And there'll be no ruts when we're done in every area that we're given. The lawn is a sea of weeds. Wherever we go, there'll be grass. If, for God forbid, there should be a leak, which is highly unlikely, it'll be immediately removed. The next morning, there'll be camp. I assure you that if we don't do this, the ruts will still be there when camp opens up. The lawn will still be there when camp opens up.
All right, anything else?
We just like an answer, up or down.
Well, we have to hear from Rick.
Fine.
What?
Fine.
We have to hear from Rick.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
If we're not getting an answer tonight, then we've known about this for a long time. We're going to go about preparing for this year's show. Because we have to allocate resources. We have to plan.
Can I ask,
And we'll go accordingly.
if you do get 25, can you put that radio thing back on the table?
If we're on the grass, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Mayor,
Peter.
just, first of all, I'd like to thank both your organizations and RAC for perpetuating the modern version of the Hatfields and McCoys, even though the Guelph and the Gibberlins come to mind as well. But that comment aside, have you ever considered approaching the Riverdale Board of Education and using their facilities, which were expanded 7 years ago, and now you have in excess of 250 parking spots at the high school that kind of find their way down to the field, and they're inviting to walk about?
The River Edge Cultural Center is located on Continental.
Peter,
And-
it's a yes or no question.
I'm telling you why not.
No, tell me
The
yes
reason-
or no.
No.
I don't want to hear it.
Good.
Then check mark on you. That means you haven't, to me. I don't need a
All our
half-hour
support is in the Cultural
reiteration.
Center. We have our computers there. We have all the gear we need for the car show. We have our answering machines. all our communications work out of the cultural center. To move it to another location would be very difficult and complex.
You haven't even tried it. And that location is open to give its facilities for use to worthwhile causes of both Oradell and River Edge. Trust me, I know one or two things about that side. You haven't even tried it. And you're asking this council to override the opinion of a commission, right or wrong that it may be. Before I do that, I'll make a committee, then I'll override their opinion. So I don't think I could be any more clear than this. And really, I mean, I thought the score ordinance took a long time. This is, it's fine. It's all under the freedom of expression, I guess. That's it. I'm done, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? The hearing is open to the public for anybody. Yes.
In Broadway, 821, Kindergarten Road, Mayor Sandy and Council Senior, thank you for your time. The sod. I buy sod. 8 foot long. Yes.
It's your copy. I'll send you the email.
I buy an 8 by 5 foot of sod for $3.50. We belabored leakage on the soil. You feel like part of a Magi presentation at Christmas, but just a thought to offer. We could do sod under the cars.
But Virginia, I don't think sod's going to work because the park has no irrigation system.
Just for the moment.
If it had an irrigation system, sod would be a great solution.
Oh, I put it down and roll it
While
up.
the cars are there and then take it away.
Or you could put a
I
plastic
put it
can.
down and roll it up.
First thing in writing.
And if somebody wanted it, and we could figure out a 1 or 2 inch leakage faucet, purification, do it by hand, and get it going for 2 weeks, we do it for you. Keep an open mind here.
But Virginia, these cars are museum quality. I know, I go to the car show.
I know.
There's nothing coming out of these cars.
Couldn't agree with you more.
I can't believe that someone who has one of these museum quality cars would want to put it under a tree where birds are pooping. That's what I think about. Why would someone want to put their car in the park when the birds are pooping all over?
It's prestigious. When you own a
all
car
over
and you
the
put
place?
30, 40, 150 hours in a car, Mayor Sandy, it's a prestigious
No, I
thing.
understand that, but these car owners are so meticulous that they're going to be trying to catch the poop before it lands on their car.
Wrong time of the season. Then we're with it now. That'll be over. The important thing
birds
is
don't poop.
that we could
Poop in the summer.
offer
Hold it in.
2 pallets, 260 rolls on a pallet, 120 rolls, about $500 for the, I'm talking to you family style.
Right.
Beautification Foundation. We just want to get everybody happy and be fair. And I know what an extraordinary job everybody does, but for the taxpayers in town, I think most of us think that we own the park, that the park belongs to the people.
That's correct.
That it's under the supervision, the guidance, the intelligence of the DPW, the Shade Tree Commission. And for the cars, the owners, they can handle their own. A lot of those cars have a price tag on them. They're actually, some of them are for sale. They're not going to bring a car in there that leaks. But we had so much commotion over the possibility of a leak that if we rolled sod down instead of cardboard, it's no big deal. You'd mark out with your green spray where these 10 or 15 or 25, whatever the final number is, are, and we'd go in the morning and roll the sod out, and the car would roll on the sod. You know you've got protection under that. At the end of the day, like you pack up your chairs and put them on a dolly and store them. we would have our palace there, and I would, foundation, beautification, bring the people, 4 or 5 men, to do this for it. It's no big deal. We just want everybody to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Amanda Lindsay. I'm one of the volunteers with the car show committee, and besides...
Your address, Ms. Lindsay?
I'm in Wantage, 65 Creekendall Road in Wantage.
Okay.
So I help out with the car show and stuff, and part of the reason why it would be really nice to have it in the park, besides it would expand it, is just temperature-wise, too. It's a lot cooler in the park, and like my grandmother is in her 80s, and sitting on a hot street next to the car is kind of a difficult thing in general. But just expanding the car show into the park and stuff, it makes it a little bit cooler for people that want to just sit and not, like there are a lot of families that come. It's nice for families to be able to sit in the park and have it still be the event and not be completely discombobulated from the actual car show on the street. So there is kind of an element of the shade, kind of keeps people cooler, and it makes things a little bit easier for older people to be in the car show.
That's good. Thank you. Yes.
Make one comment, Raj, on you read. To clarify, Mr. Acquafino's...
Oak Avenue, right?
Oak Avenue, yes. To clarify Mr. Acquafino's question, I think Mr. Dunsey omitted a couple of bits of detail that I was thinking about. We have considered alternative sites. We have considered the Riverdale, Roosevelt, Vanson, and more from an operational perspective, because that's what I'm more tasked with running, is the how we operate the car show. What we find is that those spaces don't give us a variety of things that the center of town does. Easy access to the car show for the pedestrians who walk to the car show. A lot of the town residents just show. They aren't looking for parking. We think we get about 1,000, maybe 1,500 people transit through the car show. They just kind of walk through it. Most of them arrive by walk or by bicycle, or they're just from neighboring homes. So I think one problem with Riverdale High School in particular was that if we occupy the parking lot there, then people would have to park all around the street, and we'd probably lose that crowd that we get. We value the car show as a town event in our minds. We often think of how to make it more appealing to residents in town and not just to car guys, by involving the fire department, bringing in more vendors that may appeal to others, not just the car show people. So we think that location is actually very ideal, even with Continental Avenue as it is right now. To move that, we lose a lot, besides the logistics support that the culture center provides.
Thank you.
Disagree.
Anybody else? The Rec Commission doesn't want to be heard?
Yes.
Peter, you want to step back?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you? Our point is...
I know where your position
I'm
is.
sorry.
Go ahead. I said I know where your position
Right.
is because
We're not going to be long.
I
We have
attended the
their
meeting.
meeting, that's it.
I just want to know if you can, do you want us, I'll volunteer if you want to mediate your dispute. Or if you just want to put your position on the record and, you know, the chips fall where they may. I would rather, because I remember last year, it was when the council gave Mr. Dunsey 10 cars. It was almost, and I say this as a mayor because I appointed some of you, and we don't think this should be necessarily a public vote. We would rather that the issue gets mediated between you and the cultural center, come to some kind of agreement where nobody's happy, and let everybody enjoy the car show in the park.
I just have to say, Alicia Armstrong, 200 Mohawk Drive. We met with the Culture Center and Mr. Dunsey last year, and the police chief, and I also think Lieutenant Walker. Lieutenant? And we all came to agreement of 10. I don't believe, I might be mistaken, but I believe that we came to that agreement ourselves. I don't think you had given us the 10. We had come up as a group.
Well, what happened was that
No,
you may have agreed with that number,
Mhm.
but then what happened was that you attached to that number all of these other conditions and bonds and hoops that Mr. Dunsey had to jump through so that he had to come back to the council.
Mhm.
And when he came back to the council, we said to Mr. Dunsey, "What are you looking for?" He said 10 cars and no hoops to jump through, and the council voted. And that's what happened. If Mr. Dunsey had said at that council meeting, "I want 15 or 20," there would have been a vote. I don't know if the vote would have been approved or not, but he asked for 10 cars, and he got 10 cars. I would like to see this moved forward and mediated so that there's some type of resolution. I'll volunteer to mediate it for you.
Mr. Mayor, this is Carlo Rebozo. I'm at 201 Wayne Avenue, also a member of the Rec Commission. And, I would suggest that the Rec Commission has negotiated and compromised over the years. To the point stated earlier, the position of the Rec Commission was that there would be no cars in the park, and that it was moved to 4 cars in the park. And over the last couple of years, we agreed to the 10 cars in the park, and we've maintained that position this year. So there have been compromises over the years. And to say that the Rec Commission has not compromised, I don't believe is an accurate representation of what the Rec Commission has agreed to.
We're just not comfortable with cars on the grass. That's, ruts, no ruts.
That I agree with.
Right.
If the Rec Commission says no cars on the grass under any circumstances, that's totally reasonable.
That is our position.
Totally reasonable. But there's a path,
Mhm.
and
But the
all day
path
long.
wasn't brought up at all. It was
No.
always the
I know.
88 or
And-
numerous cars on the grass.
And the
path-
I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, the path, and I'm just saying, the path wasn't talked about until tonight, and 25 cars wasn't brought up until you had made that recommendation. So that was never brought up to us, just like Councilman
I didn't make the
Jones.
recommendation, Mr.
I think you threw out
That-
25 first.
That 25 came out of Mr. Dunsey's mouth.
He said 25 would be meaningful.
Right, but yeah, you threw out the 25, and he said 25,
I said-
but regardless, my point is,
Yeah.
just like Councilman Mignon said, we got the same request twice. And so, as much as, it was saying that we're not budging, they're not happy until we say, sure, you want 80 cars, we'll do 80 cars, and we were accused of not being respectful towards them. We felt the same exact way when we went with them. We would say something, and we would get eyes rolled. I mean, it's really, this is petty, this is nonsense, and we're a little
That's why
frustrated that
you-
we're here again.
That's why you
meeting for the fourth
That's why you
time.
need a mediator. That's why you need a mediator.
So the position of the Rec Commission is that we don't believe that there should be cars parked on the grass, period. We've agreed to the 10 on the pavement, and that was the recommendation of the police chief from a safety perspective, that 10 would be a reasonable number to park on the pavement, and we agreed with that. We don't believe that we should override the police chief's recommendations on how many cars is appropriate from a safety perspective. We believe that, he's in a better position to make that recommendation, and we agree with that. We maintain that position this year.
I could just see this again next year come and say, well, we did 10 this year, 25, how about 50?
Just another reason why you need to mediate something that's going to be a long-term solution.
I would just like to, if we say 10, we're comfortable with 10, that's what the police chief said, that's what we've agreed on. I don't know why we can't just keep it at that.
Of course, the reason why Mr. Dunsey is here this year, because he doesn't think that 10 opens up the park enough to make it worthwhile from the car show perspective. That's why he's here.
Just like we said, the two 26 he had a couple of years ago, they didn't have any cars in the park, and we kind of agree. We think maybe he outgrew the space, and that's not for us to say, but it's, and again, like our position, we don't want any cars in the park. That's not what we want our park to be. We don't want any cars. So you know what, our compromise is 10, and truthfully, if we had an option, we'd say no cars.
Can I ask something? When you do have the 4th of July, which I helped get some of the vendors from years ago, there was trucks parked back there was vans parked back there.
Amusement rides.
There is no grass. let's all just admit that. There is no grass. There's trees, and there's dirt, and there's some little sprouts here and there, but the reality is, it's not a lush, golf course.
It's not lush, we're not saying it's lush.
No, so there really is no grass.
There is grass. No, there's absolutely grass. I walk in that park every single
So do
morning.
I.
And there's absolutely grass in that
There's
park. Is it the
sprouts
best
here and
grass?
there. It's packed dirt. There's big
grass.
trees that prevent grass from growing.
I'll be happy to walk with you there tomorrow morning.
I'll meet you there at 8:30.
Well, I'm there at 5:30, so.
But, there are vans and everything else. Pickalicious parks their van back there when they sell pickles. They leave ruts and then they drive off.
They're not left in the park.
They're not.
They transport the stuff in.
No,
and
they
then
left
go-
there.
they go out.
No, they don't. The van is parked there. I've seen it. I have pictures of it. Parked there. They don't, some of them don't drive away. And I have pictures if you need it.
There's one point. Let's just get to the bottom. The correct commission's position is you don't want any cars on the grass.
Correct.
You're happy with the 10 on
Correct.
pavement.
Correct.
Yes.
If Chief Caridi said you can get 12 or 15 on the pavement instead of the 10, would that be something you'd be looking to consider?
If we say that, can we say 10 to 15, and then that's our final decision for the...
Exactly. Well, I said next year you don't want to see, but I'm
We're
saying
not-
if they was able to get more, would that be something you'd be willing to consider? Because if we're not, if it...
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm saying that
No.
if your position on the grass is that, then either we override you on the grass or we don't. That's one part. Second part is if there's more room on the pavement and you can get some more and you're willing to accommodate more, then that's where the compromise is. It's simple. That's as simple as I think it is right now.
Can I have a minute?
Sure.
The best thing that I thought that came out of our last meeting here is I thought we were done. Because what was said was that it's really not the position of the council to override the rec commission making the decisions of the park. That's our job. That's what we were appointed as rec commissioners to maintain the safety, the appearance of the park. Obviously, people have their own opinions on whether there's sprouts, whether there's grass, whether there's dirt. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody sees something different. We all look at a picture, we see something different. I look at it, a very nice park for our recreation, children, our townspeople. I personally do not want to see cars in that park. I'm not saying that I don't want to see somebody have the ease of bringing something in, driving through the path like the DPW or the Pickalicious truck or whoever to get their stuff across, but then they move it out. Absolutely. We want to be a community here. Adding cars to a park as we see fit in the Recreation Commission, we do not want cars in the park, plain and simple. 10 cars is what was agreed upon. We thought we were over and done with at our last meeting. I'll be honest with you. This is the last place I wanted to be tonight, was at another council meeting discussing something that I believe we have the authority to make the decision. We made the decision. We were very kind, we were very respectful, as we always are. My patience, it's kind of gone with this because we're being made out to be the bad guys in this, but we're not. We're trying to maintain a beautiful park, and it is beautiful. I'm very happy to be a resident of River Edge and have that park. I don't want to see cars in that. And that's the position of the Recreation Commission. If the mayor and council feels that that's not what we're supposed to be doing, I don't know why we're here. And that's my point, and I apologize if I'm getting a little loud and passionate, but I think this is ridiculous that we're getting to this point every single year. My predecessors have gone through this for many years about them asking, not going. It never got to the mayor and council point until a few years ago, and now every year it's coming here. If we, and I'm not saying we're due because I absolutely personally disagree with allowing anything more than 10, if we agree, we're going to be back here again next year. Right. And you might say that we're not, but you know what? That's kind of where we were last year, and we're here again. I'm not looking forward to giving up nights, to this. If it didn't rain tonight, I was at a Little League baseball game, my son's playoff game. I was not coming to this because I was not missing what possibly could be my son's last Little League baseball game. It's a shame that we're putting this amount of time into something that we've been given the authority to make a decision. We've made our decision, and that's our point right now. That's my piece. That's where I'm at. I don't know why we're here making the decision as we were appointed to do so if it's not going to be honored.
Mary, let me just summarize. We're going on about, between the last meeting and this meeting, about 2 hours of debate on this. So maybe we can try and summarize it. It appears, from what I see, is Rec Commission is saying they want to keep it status quo. Mr. Dunsey is indicating more. I think there's 3 options on the table for this mayor and council to decide. Number 1 is obviously continue status quo with 10 cars, increase it, and give them more cars, specify whether it's on the pavement or in the parking lot or in the grass. My recommendation is any increase just subject to police and fire approval, so we're not getting into packing that park with vehicles. Or third option is we're not going to do anything. The jurisdiction is falling within the Rec Commission. I do remember that I issued a memorandum, and this came up last year, that the mayor and council, though Rec Commission oversees the parks, because there's special permits being issued that involve town resources, police, fire, and so forth. The mayor and council can step in and intervene in this. So, although I understand they're a commission, they have autonomy and control of the parks, because it's a special event involving town insurance and so forth. I did indicate that this mayor and council does have that jurisdiction. So I think those are the three options. I'd say I think you guys have ad nauseum debated this, and I think it's time either you say it's 10 cars, you increase it, or you say we're respecting the Rec Commission's jurisdiction on this. I really don't think, Mayor and Council, respectfully, there's anything else that really could be said on this at this point in time by any of the parties involved. That I've listened to it for over 2 hours now, that anything really can be added that hasn't already been added.
So let's vote. Well, nobody's done anything. I offered to mediate. I think I could work this out without somebody being embarrassed.
I was John Kerry last year, so if you want.
I'll give it a shot.
Mr. Mayor,
Solution's always good.
if that is the wish, we are willing to sit with you as a negotiator.
I still think that this council needs to take a position and say whether it's, because what happens if that doesn't work, and then they're going to be back again and have all of us then do
If it doesn't work, then
So I think
there
it's-
has to be a vote. What do you want to do?
I make a motion that we just respect the jurisdiction of the Rec Commission. We may individually disagree with whether they want to use the grass or not. I don't really believe it's a potentially hazardous, I'm not concerned about oil and those kind of things. And, I can understand some of the concern with having too many cars, but if that's the position of the Rec Commission, then I'm not...
I second that.
If the mayor can compromise something different, that's fine, but as person of the council, I think that we should be overriding it.
Well, you can't take the vote if you're gonna direct me to try to compromise.
No, I'm saying what I'm saying is that if the Rec and Culture Center want to compromise outside of this room, that's their prerogative. But this council is not going to come back and override.
I think basically what I've heard is that they said that's 10, that's a compromise, that's it. So, I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
That's where we're going.
I would,
Motion and a second. We have a motion and a second.
To mediate, there's nothing to mediate. They said
Yes, there is, because we're just saying, I'm saying we're not overstepping their bounds. If they want to come up with another, if they decide tomorrow they want to have 50 cars and they're all happy with it, it doesn't go back to us, that's fine. I'm just
I
saying
don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so.
There's been a couple of meetings.
Because I'm one of the council saying we're not coming back again. This is it.
At this point, it's got to just be done, because nobody wants to be here, beating a dead horse every year. I think it should be 25, that's it, don't come back,
25, we don't know if 25 is
goodbye.
going to work. That's an arbitrary number that came up out of nowhere.
And I think that's a compromise, I really do.
it's...
It's not 80, it's not 100, it's not 1, that's it. I really think that if you got it in writing, 25, if I ever see you again, I'll run you out of town in one of the cars.
So they make a count,
That's really what that's compromise.
It's not that we should take sides with the Rec Commission.
That's all.
It's not our business.
I'm saying that this is jurisdiction.
Begging the question,
I don't want to say...
if there's a number, it should be arrived at. It should be mediated.
That's what he has said.
But these two groups...
They said 10 is it,
cannot get on the same page.
My motion was that we respect the jurisdiction of the Rec Commission.
And I second that.
So to be sure, we're not taking sides. We're just reaffirming what's in the bylaws of the rec commission.
We understand and appreciate that, absolutely.
And you have a
Stop.
car show?
Yeah.
I'm not
I
saying
get it.
anything disrespectful.
I get it. No, I
Car show
understand.
is okay with the mayor, and the mayor's okay with mediating, so that plays
It's
into
outside of
what
us.
you're
There's not
saying.
going to be any mediation once there's a vote.
No, there is, yes, there is the same.
No, we're not.
We're letting
Step away.
we're letting the, yeah, we're letting the rec commission make their decision. If you can mediate something different,
Yeah.
go ahead. But we're saying we're
That's
not,
not for
We're
us
just
to
adamant for
determine.
the fight.
and we're not going to come back and validate whatever you mediate. That's what we're saying too. Is that if you can come up with an agreement, then great. But as of now,
If I can come up with an agreement, then it's just an agreement.
exactly.
It doesn't have to come back to the mayor and council.
That's
And we're
what
saying, let's,
I mean, can we just have this now? You know, can we just say something now?
we have a
Is there
motion and a
any-
second.
So shoot the motion and second
We have
down,
a-
vote. That
yes,
means you shoot-
take a vote.
If it gets shot down, then we gotta go vote for something else.
Because you could try it, if it doesn't work,
There's a
then it
motion and
never
a second
happens
on,
again.
on the floor.
That's all.
Everybody's clear about the motion and the second that we're voting on.
The
Okay.
motion, what is this, restate the motion again?
That we are respecting the jurisdiction of the rec commission to come up with any compromise they deem is acceptable to them and the
There's no
council.
compromise, no.
The mayor and council, the motion is the mayor and council is taking no action
Exactly.
and is going to allow the rec commission
Correct.
make the
Yes.
determination how many vehicles should be parked
Correct.
in the
Correct.
park.
And if that's
We
the
just
compromise,
heard that they said 10.
It doesn't matter. That's
Right?
their,
That's their prerogative at this point. You're not putting a number on it. That's the motion, and that's a second on it. Let's have a vote.
So if the rec commission says 10 like last year, and then you have to put up the bond, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, then we're going to be right back where we started from again.
No, they're a commission.
yes, the commission,
No, I
yes.
understand. I understand. I'm trying
Let's just
to
vote on the
avoid
motion.
this becoming an annual event.
so let's take a vote on it,
Yes.
and if it gets shot down, then it gets shot down.
Just,
Okay. The motion is on the floor. There's a second by Councilman Capola. Call the vote.
Councilwoman Murphy?
No.
Councilman Capola?
Yes.
Councilwoman Christie?
Yes.
Councilman Manila?
yes.
And Councilman Schrader?
Yes.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you, good night.
Agree or agree now?
All right, what else do we have? Open to the public.
Thank you very much.
Would anyone else like to be heard? Can I have a motion to close this hearing to the public?
So moved.
Second.
I think we have to go back into the work session.
Yep.
Can I have a motion to go back into the work session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, what's left on the work session?
For discussion.
You took a score again?
The Board of Education Subcommittee. What's happening on that? Anything? What?
You have to nominate the subcommittee.
Well, the subcommittee's you and me and one other council member.
Yours?
No, I
No?
would have a conflict probably.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Oh, well, Councilman Papaletti, he's a teacher. Okay, that's the Riverbridge Board of Ed Subcommittee. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, our solid waste contract. Everybody has been given a package of
Emails.
emails dating beginning in March regarding problems with our current vendor for picking up trash. And I'm I'm just bringing this to your attention because if we need to terminate the contract, or if we need to go out to bid on a new vendor, we should get the ball moving. The complaints are fairly...
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
No, they're not.
No?
From the complaints?
Go
From this?
through them again.
I
Go through them
counted
and have them-
95
I know,
complaints.
and about 30 of them are about the same, and
No.
they're grouped into 3 general areas. One has to do, and there's a significant problem with them picking up the schools for some reason, and the
police
firehouse.
department?
Yes. The individual ones are individual complaints you're going to get almost all the time.
There's whole streets.
Whole
Yes.
streets, Bogart,
Yes.
Elm,
And I
Continental,
just
Kenwood.
contacted New
Someone-
Milford. They
But
have,
again-
they have more than 95 complaints.
They're individual, somebody had 3 things, there's 3 complaints about the same guy who said that they took his garbage cans from the
Yeah,
same
that's
address.
just one guy.
But that's
My
3 out of the 90 you
vegetation
just
is still
said.
out there after 2 weeks.
I'm saying that you need to look at all of them in context. A lot of them were the startup ones from October, November. There seem to be some issues right after the holidays, when there's a Monday, Tuesday, if you looked at the dates when they happened. And now the issue now is with the vegetation pickup. So there are I'm not saying there's not issues, but I'm saying, but, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater here and say that, the other thing that's not here is also how they resolve them. Because a lot of times they seem to resolve them right away based on the email.
Costa just came in and said his garbage was picked up at like 6 o'clock. They are doing
Okay.
a very poor job. New Milford has over 95 complaints. I just contacted them. They just had an accident in Fairview where their truck, which is poorly maintained, lost control, drove down a street, hit a bunch of parked cars, and took out some telephone poles. In February, Galaxy went into bankruptcy. So,
Okay.
and if you actually, there's been complaints about the way their trucks are, that they're not, they don't look roadworthy.
But that's not a reason to not renew a contract. If you're
So if they
basically-
have these bad trucks and they get out of control and take down telephone poles and take out some parked cars.
I mean, they came late to my house today. I was kind of surprised, but...
Ed, maybe you're satisfied, but my street doesn't get picked up, the vegetation hasn't been picked up.
I'm not
I
saying
called
that, but
Lisa
I'm saying there's not issue. I'm not saying there's not issue, but I'm saying, but you need to be...
We've never had this before, where this amount of complaints, ever, never. A stack like this, yes, I've read it, there's some duplicates, but there's entire whole streets. There's many times they dump off the wrong size bin for the schools. They're supposed to put a 4 in, and they
But
put
he
a 1
claimed,
in.
but they said John Lynch told us put two 2-yarders. He said no.
They're coming late, too, and stuff. I mean...
Well, there's no such thing as coming in late. There's certain... I got this complaint, too, that someone said to me, we used to get our garbage picked up at 8 o'clock, now they don't come till 3. Well, we can't direct them to go on the same streets at the same time that they've done before. It's like someone said to me, why do you get your mail at 9 o'clock in the morning and someone gets it at 4 o'clock? Somebody has to be at the end of the route. It's always going to be that way.
Have you seen how many judgments are against them? Many judgments, and you don't have to furrow your brow. Go look it up.
That's irrelevant. There's going to be judgments against Waste Management, there's going to be judgments against any company. What I'm saying is that...
Waste Management, we never had these many
Yes, we had complaints.
Not like this.
But part of the bidding process, and when you award the bid, is obviously the financial solvency, and they have to certify to that. So that's not... I met with Mr. Lynch, asked me to come to a meeting, had to be late March, early April, it's around here, and we're pretty clear with them, and the issues we addressed with them was the pickups at Cherry Hill Fire Department. So I don't know if there's been any email since March or April about...
No, there seems still to be an issue.
And one of the resolutions that came up was that at the end of the route, they were supposed to check in with the DPW to make sure nothing was missed, or to make sure there's no complaints, then they can go back and redo it. So I don't know if that was, that's happening. But we met with them. One of the reasons is that it's a year-to-year right now, and
73.
I don't have the contract in front of me, but usually there may be a notice provision, and that's why I wanted to make you guys aware of it, that if you were going to terminate, you may want to have to give them a couple of months, heads-up notice, so you're not renewing it. I got to look at the contract, and that's why it's up to discussion.
When is it over?
I don't know. This one,
Yeah, but to say, look...
30 days?
I don't know, we'd have to look at the contract.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, to say, well, look, I got complaints, yeah, but everyone gets complaints. I'd be fired. I own a business. That's not an excuse. Like, everybody gets complaints. Yeah, guess what? Boom, you're fired. That's what would happen to me in my business. I can't use it as an excuse. Mrs. Jones, I'm sorry, my contract review, my entertainers, they, but everyone gets complaints, so don't fire. No, I'd be fired. Done, gone. This guy...
Alan, is this the same notification process that Waste Management had in place when a resident had a concern or complaint about their garbage pickup? Were they not instructed to call Waste Management directly? They were. Are you sure? Because I've talked to residents who have said that they've called Borough Hall, and Borough Hall said, you need to lodge that complaint directly with Waste Management so that they can send someone out to correct it. The reason I'm asking is, are we comparing apples to apples to know if this is an unusually high amount of complaints or not?
But there was one incident here, and about somebody called up asking if they would pick up a piano. Okay, and the person from the company says, I don't think so, let me find out for you. And before the guy even responded, we responded back, forget it, I already told the resident, you can't. So, you have to look at also the follow-up. And then a lot of times, he said, I'm coming right away, if it acknowledges the problem. There's no second one either acknowledging whether they did or they didn't. So I said, so yes, there may be, I said, from October, November, it was a brand new account for them. There's going to be problems with them locating streets and missing things, but you have to look at the, I said, some of the timing issues too. It's around holidays, and it's around, now with the start of vegetation, there seems to be some problems. I mean, to miss one house, that to me doesn't seem likely.
Entire streets.
I can, yes, I'm saying, but that's not the bulk of the complaints.
But here's one here that says, we were given this phone number to call, for people to call.
And that happens too.
So here is the phone number that the people are supposed to call.
I think it'd be the other way around. If I have a new contract, I'd be less likely to miss the streets. I don't want to mess this up.
The number you dialed is not in service.
That's the number the residents have been given to call, right here, 816-7510. It doesn't work.
This is getting ridiculous. Okay, I'm from the company.
Can I have a motion open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
That is a wrong phone number. It's 866-7510.
Why don't you identify yourself, sir?
My name's Tom Sherman. I met with Mr. Sarlo and the DPW guys in March.
I knew something.
And they're...
I'm actually Tommy Giordano, I'm one of the vice presidents.
Vice President of what?
Of Galaxy Carding, Joseph Smikowski.
Galaxy Carding.
It's actually the proper name of the company is Joseph Smikowski Carding. We do business as Galaxy Carding.
Well, I'm glad that you're here, so maybe you could lead us to a solution to this problem before the contract has to get canceled.
I'd love to help you in any possible way.
What can you do to alleviate our concerns that we're going to get good service?
First, let me assuage your fears about judgments or anything like that. We are financially sound and bonded. There might be some confusion with Galaxy Recycling having filed bankruptcy. That has nothing to do with us. We're a completely separate entity from Galaxy Recycling.
Does it have the same information?
It has common ownership.
It has some common ownership?
It has some common ownership in between both companies. Has nothing to do with the financial stability of Galaxy Carding, which is also Joseph Smikowski Carding, which you have there.
Okay.
So it's common ownership, what, one company is solvent and one company is not?
There's common ownership between
Galaxy.
the Galaxy and it. If you want me to explain with the Galaxy Recycling, which I gladly will, Galaxy Recycling unfortunately got hit with Hurricane Sandy and could not recover. Hurricane Sandy, they've been going through I'll give you the shortened version of Galaxy's recycling story for the last 2.5 years of a nightmare of a company, of a business, of a family-run business that's been in business for 45 years. And actually it's been in a business for 45 years that paid bills before towns, commercial accounts that we've been dealing with for, like I said, over 40 years of never having one financial problem. Unfortunately, 2.5 years ago, we got hit with Hurricane Sandy and wiped out one of our main plants of Galaxy Recycling. It has nothing to do with Galaxy Carding or your service or Joseph Smikowski. Unfortunately,
we got hit with a perfect storm. If anyone saw the movie The Perfect Storm, well, unfortunately, that's been my life for the last 2.5 years on Galaxy Recycling. We hit Hurricane Sandy. It took us over 7 months to get our facilities back up and running in a proper order. In that time, AIG, the wonderful insurance company that we all have to pay every single month on the 1st, has given Galaxy Recycling $0 to this moment, which is 2.5 years later. We are now in litigation with 7 other companies of all different industries that are also going up against AIG because they received $0 since Hurricane Sandy. Unfortunately, in that time, which I know you're very well aware of recyclables, recycling market within 7 months after Hurricane Sandy crashed. If you want literature on it, I could give you...
Well, we used to have Green Skies, which was
Right
a big
there.
industry, and then all of a sudden they're gone.
Oh, Green Sky basically folded up, ran away, and left all their towns out to dry. Galaxy Recycling did not. Galaxy Recycling is trying to reorganize. They went Chapter 11 to reorganization. They didn't do Chapter 7 like Green Sky did, who just left the towns and their residents to basically scramble the night up because they basically closed their doors on a Friday and said, don't come back. Galaxy Recycling, like I said, was a family-run business, and we would never back away from it. Any one of our customers, until this day, we still have it. After the crash of the recyclable markets, Galaxy Recycling still maintained and worked all the way through everything we possibly can do to keep moving forward. Unfortunately, like I said, the perfect storm, once we got the facility up and running last February 18th, I happen to know that day very well, it's actually my birthday, we were the same facility, from the snow, the roof collapsed. So the same facility was actually down again. As of today, with AIG, same insurance company, took them over 7.5 months just to get a bill, insurance passed to rebuild the building. So unfortunately, the circumstances on Galaxy Recycling shoulders was too tremendous for it to keep going forward. That's why they went Chapter 11 to reorganize, and they are in the process of rebuilding right now, so we can go back to being where we were for the last 45 years of maintaining all our customers. I hope that kind of clarifies the Galaxy to the Joseph Smikowski for you. If you have any other questions, again, I will feel free to try to help you. The question I have is, thank you for explaining the difference between the ownership of the Galaxy Recycling and Galaxy Carting. The question I have is, never before have we had so many complaints regarding our garbage and recycling pickup. Never. This is a historical number of complaints. And in addition, there are complaints that your drivers don't know our streets, that your equipment is in bad shape, and we want better service.
Since our meeting in March, we've only had one complaint about the schools. That was a mechanical issue. Schools have been picked up religiously, the firehouse has been picked up. We haven't gotten any additional complaints after that. Our drivers are checking in daily with the DPW, and I do spend 11, 12 hours a day at my desk responding to emails. So I'm sure if you check with DPW, any issues they have are immediately addressed. You brought up the piano, which I distinctly remember. Someone had a big piano they wanted to pick up. And I said I will work to accommodate. If there's any possible way to do it, we'll do it. And by that time, the town had already told the resident no.
Unfortunately, you do get some phone calls with a missed stop. But on a missed stop on a street, if we picked up the whole, I know what someone said, if you picked up a whole street and we missed one house, it is possible that we did miss it. I'm not saying that, but it is also possible that the resident got home late, put the garbage out late, called up and said, you missed our garbage. If we picked up every other house on the block and missed one, it's kind of hard to understand, but it does happen. Not saying that it doesn't. A lot of if you really look through it, and you are 100% correct, sometimes after holidays, on double days, it is a little bit of a problem of getting every single resident picked up in a timely fashion. Today, yes, there was unfortunately, a late pickup, but it also took us about an hour and a half to get into our facility today because of all the rains and floods. We actually were shipping guys back and forth and lobbying trucks back and forth out to a dry spot where we get...
Do you communicate that to our person at the secretary at the DPW? Do you put this information out saying, alerting them we can't get into the facility? Because they can send a message to our residents.
We weren't shut down. We were just, it was just slow getting out today. And keep in mind as well that this week we are going to 2 times a week for zone service. So you can imagine that the amount of garbage that we're picking up this week, today, will be, next week at the same time, will be a third less.
What about, do you have the same crews picking up the garbage and the vegetation, or are they different crews?
No, it's 2 separate trucks.
It seems that a lot of the recent complaints now are about vegetation.
The major issue with the vegetation...
Are those guys new?
No.
Do they not know the streets?
No, it's not that at all. The problem is that your vegetation gets dumped in Chatham. So it's almost a 3-hour round trip. Once the truck fills up here, and there's a lot of grass in this town, once that truck is full, we can't just go to Route 46 and dump it, where we dump most of our towns. We have to drive to Chatham. And it's a long ride in traffic over 3 major highways. And then when you get there, it's not a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, but then that says that you need to accommodate us better on that. I mean, that shouldn't be our fault.
Right, no, and that's why we did
that I agree with. If you need to bring another truck in, then we shouldn't have to leave it empty.
And that's what we do. When we realize how heavy it is, we will get you additional trucks.
Actually, we, over the last past week, we have actually done a little bit of a study of your grass, because it seems...
Because there were a lot today. I saw a lot of bins that did look like they did not, even on my street, that I will say, the vegetation was still there when I came home.
Has been extremely high, which what we're assuming is...
Just from the beginning of the summer, and everybody's doing the pruning, and
unfortunately, the Chatham location is directed from
you guys,
your council. You're the ones who picked that location to go to. So it is unfortunately, it is actually a longer burden than we ever imagined. Was that changed, correct?
No, not in this town. Rotunda used to have a facility in Kearney, which was obviously a lot closer than Chatham.
It's really not us, it's the BCUA that directs where...
Vegetation is at your discretion.
Can I ask Alan, I don't know if you can speak to, has this amount of complaints or complaints similar to this have happened before, like in other, different companies? Or
Not under recent carriers, but we brought in the occupational group one year. We had a tremendous problem at that point. That goes back many years ago, not the 10, 15 years ago. I'm talking about 20 years.
So you're saying this situation is unusual?
It hasn't happened in decades, but if you go back far enough, yes, we tried to bring in another group.
The biggest complaints I used to get under the previous one was that how they would just throw the garbage cans in the street, which was true.
I've had that happen.
And you would drive up my street with the cans on the side and in the middle of the street. That doesn't seem to be the issue. But I was willing to give them some slack, being a new account, but I said they need to address all the issues, and if there's an issue with the vegetation, which there seems to be, you got to step that up and accommodate the load that we have. So
that's what I was trying to say before. When we first started this, so like there's a problem, we call you guys. Customer's not happy. I'm a business owner too, so I applaud you for being here. So obviously you want to keep the business, and I can appreciate that. So yeah, customer's not happy at the store, so you guys will do what for us then? I don't know.
We try to do whatever we have to do to make it right. Like I said, we're always, if there's a missed call, I always send someone back up. Even if it's on a day that we're not in town, I will find a truck to send up here just to
on the vegetation. We are actually sending another vehicle up here, especially now since it's going to be twice a week, because of the extra vegetation that we already do have, and with the long commute that we have to go to Chatham. Maybe we could look at, if it's true that it's at our discretion, maybe we could look at a more convenient location for you to take the grass. That would be 100% helpful. even going through. Even when you go out for a rebid, now that Chatham, you gotta understand, it does take about a 2 hour to 2.5 hour round trip by the time you get back to the vehicle. So going forward, we're going to have to actually either budget for another vehicle in town or budget for exactly going to Chatham and coming back.
Where is closer?
There's a facility on Route 46 in, what's it called? It's a town with a new name.
Oh,
Woodland
the old
Park?
West Patterson.
Yes,
Woodland Park. Yeah.
There's one in Woodland Park.
That's about a half hour away.
Did you say, we don't only have once a week vegetation?
Twice, no.
No,
Twice.
no.
No, once
We
a
have
week vegetation.
Right, I
Twice
thought you
a
had
week
mentioned we were
garbage.
moving to
Twice a week
twice. Right, I just wanted to be
Yeah.
clear, we don't have twice a week
Oh, sorry,
vegetation.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
all right,
yes,
just wanted to be
yes.
clear.
Yeah, so I guess I'm saying that now that the
Right, no, I know we have twice a week
the load,
garbage,
but the garbage load will be half
right.
their normal
I
pickup.
just didn't want them to think we also had twice a week
No, no.
vegetation.
I just want to ask a couple of things from these emails.
Excuse me one second, not to interrupt you. We have been checking in with the DPW every day, and if they do have a complaint, we do actually go back. So if they have no complaints for that day, and unfortunately, I'm not exactly sure what emails that are you referring to. Do they come to the borough, or do they come to...
Yeah, they came to the person that you're dealing with, Lisa Hessman.
Okay.
So she just wrote here, she needs a truck to check in at the end of the day. That was in October. Maybe you started doing that now?
Yeah, there are emails that come to Lisa Hessman, and then she sends an email to Mr. Skirbo, and then he responds.
Now, there was one here where some guy, you took his garbage can for the third time as trash. Now, that guy, does he get compensation, or do we figure out...
We addressed that.
We did.
Yeah, they're not paying, I mean, unless it says, please take garbage, they're not
So
dumping their
he's
garbage.
making it up that his garbage...
There was also one where somebody said they didn't pick up certain material, then it turned out it was construction debris. You know, residents say things, and you have to...
The only problem is the pattern. It's not one or two.
This guy here
but-
says the trash barrel was damaged and wants it replaced. Mr. Munson. Now, I know from my experience, they used to take the garbage can and bounce the wheels off. Maybe that was just for me, but...
The wheel fell off my garbage can.
No.
I didn't file a claim.
Don't buy
I know, when
cheap
broke it.
garbage.
When the other ones had, well, over here, yeah, they were broke.
Spend $70 and buy one
Now,
that
the other
will
guys broke mine, the other, not these guys.
Now, there was a whole, the strip mall over there.
Spent the same
The whole
can
strip
for
mall was
20
not,
Is that the pizzeria?
yeah,
I know that was many months ago. I haven't
that was
had-
January.
Right, so half a year ago. We haven't had a single complaint about that.
That was addressed at the meeting.
So I say, we lit them up, let's give them a second chance. Clearly they're here, they want to earn the
I
business
think
back.
John and
I
Tom,
can
they already
appreciate
addressed
that.
most of this before,
What?
and now that they brought to light the issue with the vegetation, which was the thing I thought was the biggest immediate concern, they've already explained that, so...
The vegetation has really, I mean, I know you said you're going to bring in maybe more trucks. If we
Yeah,
can
we'll-
get it closerly
We'll start
dropped
setting
off.
up an additional truck on Wednesday.
How do we
until-
make it easier for you to drop it off if we can get it to Woodland Park?
You
What do
know,
we have
but
to
that's
do?
not the concern. If we can't change the location, these guys have to bring more trucks in. That's reality.
That-
And
we will
actually,
do
you know,
that for
if we can't get it
Wednesdays
moved,
going
I still want these guys to...
No, I
you have to do
know,
it as
that
moving
should
it,
happen
so.
as well, but you shouldn't have somebody driving 3 hours to drop some leaves off. You know, if there's a
Yeah, but I don't know the
closer
reason
place-
why we go there, or maybe
Why
it's the
don't- why
rate
do
we
we
pay,
go far
because it might be the cost that...
Huh?
Look at the tipping fee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if we can compare Chatham to Woodland Park.
We'll look at it.
yeah. If it costs us more money, we're not
think
gonna...
Within the next 2 to 3 weeks, your vegetation's going to plateau. Everybody's done with getting their yard set up for the
Yeah.
summer. Everybody's done with their tree trimming and everything, and now we're going to see a
But
pretty
that,
gradual...
I know, but you can't use
Well,
that
it's
as your
grass.
baseline.
People be-
The reality, it is what it is, so...
Yeah, cutting grass, but you're not.
How long, you're the COO? What are you the?
Vice President.
Vice President. How long have you been a Vice President?
Since 15 years now.
And what about you?
I've been with the company for 15 years, since I
Are you
started.
related to Mr.
No.
Smitskowski?
No, I don't think he walks among us anymore.
No,
We-
Does any of his relatives work there?
No.
All right.
I have one other question. The Fairview situation where the truck got out of control and went down the street and took out the poles and cars, was that your truck or was that, I was told it was your truck?
It was a Galaxy carting truck, yes. But it was, they're actually going through investigation right now, and we have all the records of it. And I don't want to comment on it either way until DOT is done doing a complete investigation, but there was no mechanical failure.
Do you guys invest in your trucks? Like, do you always replace them?
We invest in our trucks. We spend over $500,000 a year in maintenance.
Because somebody said, another person said that one of the trucks that came into our town was like tilted and was like 2 inches off the ground from it was listing recently.
Like a ship in a hurricane?
Yeah, that it drove like this, that it was on a complete
If it did have some
tilt.
sort of a mechanical failure, we wouldn't let it continue to run. But I mean, things do go wrong with these trucks. You're putting, 20 tons on at a time, and then dumping it off and then putting it back. It's like an airplane. There's so many compression, decompression cycles. There will be a failure at some point. It's the same thing with the trucks. It's very, no matter what, it's very tough on the trucks.
Garbage carting company that you ever use or go talk to, the biggest concern of garbage companies is maintenance of their vehicles. It is probably one of the most expensive things that we have to deal with. And it is. It's mechanical parts, it's hydraulic pumps, trucks hate the winter and they hate the summer. And unfortunately our spring and fall is not a very long season.
How do you map your routes? Or how do your drivers map their routes? For do you have now set routes for each section?
Well, it's the same, right. It's the same guy, same crew comes in every day for the most part. Like, for example, today your regular driver was out sick. But he's the man who comes every day. He knows the town. He tries to do main streets first. And then he has a way to, the way that he's found most efficient with, backing in and out of one ways. In certain ways you cut the truck into different parking lots. It takes a while to get it down
How do they physically keep track of which streets they've already done?
We monitor them remotely. We have full GPS on all of our fleet, and before they even get to the end of their route, we replay what they've done, make sure they've covered all the streets that they're supposed to go to.
And in the beginning, he did have an exact map of the town.
Okay, because I said, missing the one or two, I agree with you. Missing streets or two, that's a different issue. That's somebody just not paying attention to what's on the route.
Correct, but then the normal driver and helpers now have it, almost, I don't think we've missed a full street in a
No, there was one fairly recent, but again, one street out of, but still, it shouldn't happen at this point. I said, I'll cut you slack for the first month or two when you're learning the routes, but now you're 8 months into the contract, you should pretty have a good idea of your...
Again, it is mostly for the same driver, same helpers, unless they're vacation, sick, or emergency.
And if you could just communicate rapidly, or if something comes up, to our secretary at the DPW, because then the information gets to the public, because they do ask about garbage all the time. So we can put it on our website. We can send out a nixle, so like this past Monday it was a holiday, and most people assumed that there was no pickup, and then there was pickup.
Right. I don't know why there was that confusion.
I guess the holidays, it's never been regularly.
Yeah, I mean, as the calls came in, we did do everything we could to get back and
actually, we came up on we did come up on the holiday because it was. I don't believe this was one of your holidays that you were.
As far as I know, it was scheduled to be done, and I know a lot of residents didn't put their garbage out, and they put it. The Monday crew zones put theirs out on Tuesday, and
that's where a lot of the confusion came in this week.
Well, no, after the New Year, after one of the other holidays, then.
Sure, right. There's a lot of garbage, because it's not only your town that's generating double the amount of garbage, it's every town, and the dump gets that backed up, and everything just lags behind. And it's, unfortunately, that's the way it happens. That's why we prefer to work on holidays. It just...
Yeah, but I don't know if the residents want you, picking up garbage on the holidays either, that's...
No, some towns do, some towns don't. So...
And we try to pick up almost everything that the residents put out. Some of the residents do put out a...
interesting bunch of stuff.
Yes, I was actually, I drove up early today just to go see, and I did take some pictures of some interesting things. But it's not just your town, it's every town that residents, decided to throw out stuff that don't belong in the back of a garbage truck to try to crush.
Give us some examples.
Actually, today we've had couches, full couches, we've had full kitchen tables.
You don't take furniture?
We do, but it's something like a sleeper sofa that could shatter the back of that garbage truck in a minute, and you don't even know it until, the guys will, oh, it's heavy, so we throw it, and that'll be it. And that blade will shatter, and we'll be down for hours.
Okay.
So we try to use someone put out something, I can only describe it as it looked like a telephone pole. I don't know what they would, I think it was a beam for their house. I mean, if we'd have tried to crush that, that blade's not going to crush that. But we try to get everything we possibly can for you guys.
We really do.
And if we can't, we call the DPW, and you have the 30-yard dumpster there for the big stuff, and when that's loaded, John or Lisa will call us, and we'll pick that up the next day.
Do you ever partner with the town and have education materials or to help out with educating the public, or do you guys do a partnership to work to educate
Help
the
you with
public?
whatever, if you have any questions or...
No, materials or handouts or stuff like that?
We did more of that for recycling, but we don't handle your recycling. I think you have, was it Ferretti?
If everybody had a mulching mower...
In-house. Oh, you do it in-house, okay.
There wouldn't be any grass pickup.
Sure.
And one of the-
Compost bin or...
To the Councilman Prestige's point, is the process that residents should call you directly, or should they be calling DPW and then they give you the complaint, or what do you think, what should be the process of that, and which is going to get the most direct?
Either one is going to get an immediate response. If you want your residents to go through DPW, just so you have a log of it and you can see that it's been reconciled, that's fine with us. And if you want to have them call us directly, which they do,
We actually do have a couple towns that they do call us directly, and it works out
in
fine.
this town we get both. I have a lot of people do call me directly, and a lot of people contact DPW.
Is there clear direction on our website what a resident's supposed to do?
And unfortunately, I don't know why you have the wrong phone
It
number.
was in one of these emails from October 29th. She writes, Tom, no answer at 2:01.
I think we addressed that at the meeting that we had in March, the phone number.
All right. Thank you for coming tonight and answering our questions, and hopefully we can continue with the contract and renew the contract with you guys for next year, and these complaints will be reduced substantially.
Promise we won't ask to park any of the trucks in the park.
Could you just drive around it tonight and leave a bunch of ruts and see what happens?
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for opening it for us to speak. Thank you. All right, we're up to, on the discussion list, 24-hour ordinance.
Oh, yeah.
Mayor, to speak, some correspondence with Ms. Bogert, and some direction from the mayor and council about somehow reducing, instead of the all-encompassing within every residential zone, within 200 feet of a residential zone. Ms. Bogert is suggesting that section 152-4 be amended, and she indicated 3 sections of town. Number 1 is she's indicating that all businesses located in the C2 zone district shall be permitted to operate 24 hours a day and keep in the criteria, the security camera, everything that's existing. Part B would be all businesses located in the C1 zone shall be permitted to operate between 5 to 11. So she's indicating C2 24-hour, but C1 restricting it, and all other businesses in all other districts also be 5 to 11, unless the approval from the board permits otherwise, but not making it, increasing it, but making it more, she's given the planning board to make it more restrictive, giving them the option to make it more restrictive. So her suggestion is the C2 zone, 24 hours a day, C1, 5 to 11, and or all other areas, 5 to 11, pretty much.
The 24 hours down south?
I don't know what your
Yes, that's
C2 zone
C2
is.
zone.
The C2 zone is down by the new shopping center.
And that's these proposed 24 hours over there?
Yes.
Yeah. And everything else 5 to 11?
5 to 11.
Kindergarten, 7-Eleven?
Yes, yeah.
5 to 11.
Wait. Oh, but, okay.
No, I'm still not very changing it.
What, I don't know, what are we looking to do tonight?
We're just looking for consensus building among the council so that this proposed ordinance can get drafted and be put on the agenda for first reading. So the original ordinance that was proposed was the strict no 24 hours within 200 feet of any residence. And there were comments from the council that that was too restrictive and that there wouldn't be hardly any place where you could have a 24-hour business. So the planner's suggestion, let's keep this discussion pursuant to the rules here. The planner's suggestion was to keep our existing ordinance, which is you can have 24 hours if you have the camera and the burglar alarm and 2 employees. Make that apply to only the C2 zone, which is at the south end of town, and then restrict 24-hour operation in the C1 zone, which is the commercial area along Kinderconnect Road to the 5 to 11. That's her suggestion.
What do we do about the businesses in the C1 zone that are currently operating under a 24-hour ordinance?
They're grandfathered by operation of law.
And what do we do with the business that's under construction in that zone who's indicated that they intend to operate under 24 hours?
That's subject to the ordinance.
So, you know, we're back to where we
We've had
were.
conversations.
Yes.
I feel like we've deliberated about this.
Yes, exactly. We're back to where we were. And it'll kill the 7-Eleven here that we've already said we didn't want to affect.
I would just say this, you know, the gentleman, the former councilman, made a good point. You know, I'm a business owner too. I like like making my money and don't want to have any exposure to liability because obviously we're afraid we might be sued. But sometimes, and in this case, this is for the good of the people. We may have to fall on that sword because he brought up a good point. Like I said, it's the quality of life. You know, if it was just numbers on paper, yeah, let's just make money. Let's don't worry about it. But he brought up a good point. I thought he shed light on that. You know, we're to protect the quality of life too. We don't want mission creep and then, you know, this and this and this, and it becomes.
Councilman, what you're forgetting was that these people made that argument to the planning board.
Right.
I was there.
I wasn't there.
Twice. They came twice. They made the same argument. The planning board still approved the application, with the understanding that the 24-hour was in play and there was no. The council, previous to this council, could have changed this any time since 1999 when the ordinance went into effect. It was last changed in 2009. Let's see who was on the council then and see what prompted the change at that point. But they could have restricted it in 2009 when they amended the ordinance.
Right, but they didn't.
So there was a reason they didn't. So
and the reason was?
The reason now is because of 7-Eleven. It's the one application that you know we're targeting because of whatever, and you know now we're back to where we were 2 months ago. Nothing's changed.
And by the way, what businesses are open 24 hours that are in the C1? Because I know the old Dunkin' Donuts is not anymore.
The only business in the C1 zone that's open 24 hours is the River Edge Diner.
Dunkin' Donuts opted not to.
Yes, they were operating.
They can if they want.
Yes.
Tom,
So we have yes.
I'm sorry, if I could ask, refresh our memory about if we were to modify the ordinance mid-construction for the C1, where would we be from a legal...
You can modify it at any point in time. It doesn't matter if they're existing right now. If you wanted to restrict the hours by law of the River Edge Diner, you can. Just because they're up and running doesn't mean they're grandfathered in. You have every right to restrict the hours at any point in time. Mostly, obviously, if they've been great and they've done it, you grandfather them in. But you can, at any point in time, restrict your hours. You are not bound. Just because they're operating doesn't mean, you know, they can. So, by law, my opinion would be you can do it at any point in time. If they're up and running, you want to say, guys, you've been up and running for 50 years or whatever, we're not going to touch you. You're going to be grandfathered in. But there's no running, I got a CO, therefore you can't touch me. That's not the case.
That's the same.
Yeah, I mean, if I were living around there, I wouldn't want something open by me 24/7. Like you said, you know, trucks. And by the way, 7-Eleven will deliver 24/7. I see it because I'm on the road at 3 in the morning coming back from events and stuff. So, but anyway.
You know, this proposed ordinance applies to all businesses. It has absolutely nothing to do with the 7-Eleven.
All right.
It applies to all retail businesses along the entire zone. Well, we're not targeting...
Okay, then what's the harm
we're
in
not-
waiting 3 months and doing it then?
Listen, if you want to speak, wait for your turn. I'll give you the floor, and you could speak without interrupting, without being interrupted.
You keep bringing the same, this is the same, it's like the car show. We're doing this 24-hour thing over and over again. We're going through all kinds of logistical gymnastics to get things to...
When you were on the planning board, you wanted the 24-hour ordinance to be looked at and revised. I remember you saying, maybe this is an opportunity to revise the 24-hour ordinance.
I didn't say it at that point.
Then you're not, now you're not on the planning board.
Now you're not
on the planning board.
Go back and read
and
the
you
minutes.
I'll
I
go
didn't
back
say
and
that.
read
Yes,
the
exactly.
So this applies to the entire zone, not just to one particular business.
And it does, because if they were not here,
I
we
don't
wouldn't be talking
know,
about it.
you may want to protect a particular business owner. I want to protect the residents' quality of life.
Then why didn't you propose this 3 years ago?
I proposed this a year and a half ago.
Why didn't you do it 3 years ago when 7-Eleven got approved?
A year and a half ago. And then the 7-Eleven project was shelved because there were other off-site issues regarding contamination.
That was known back then,
right? No, it wasn't known back then.
It was during the hearings we were talking about the contamination. Of course we did the contamination.
Anyway, it's here, it's relevant, it's on the agenda, you could vote however you want. Where would the question is, for the public policy of this administration going forward, where is a 24-hour business more suitable? Is it more suitable in the C1 zone along Kinderkamack Road, or is it more suitable on the south end of town? That's the issue for this council. Not when we should have done something.
Because 2 weeks ago you wanted to shut it down there. That was the argument 2 weeks ago.
Where is it more suitable? Where is it more suitable?
And if you lived near it, would you want it open 24 hours? I wouldn't want it to live there.
So if you think it's more suitable all along Kinderkamack Road, then give the borough attorney suggested language. If it's more suitable at the south end of town, then just tweak our existing ordinance so that it only applies on the south end of town. That's the issue. So,
and I think if we get sued, we'd be getting sued for a good cause. We're not doing it to be bad or naughty or not make money. I love money. I love to make it. Let's do it. But this is a quality of life thing for sure, in my opinion. But,
all right. So Councilman Coppola has given his opinion, reasoned opinion. Ed has given his opinion. There's 3 other more opinions I'd like to hear from, so we can have some direction.
I'm going to take it under consideration again. I'm going to go out there. I want to see what Mr. Higgins is talking about with the lighting. And
it has nothing to do with that particular business. It has to do with whether it's more appropriate to have a 24-hour business along Kinderkamack in the C1 zone or on the south end of town. Nothing to do with that particular business.
Although I think maybe the other way to look at it too, Mayor, would be that business is in the fold for sure. It's just not maybe focused on it, but the business, no question, is in the mix. Yes, that business is part of it. It is. I mean, of course it is. Okay. And I got a problem with that business. So that's that. I mean,
I don't have a problem with any particular business.
I got a problem with any business that's going to be open. Yeah, Diamond would have grandfathered in.
Did you object when Dunkin' Donuts is open 24 hours too?
What's that?
Did you object when Dunkin' Donuts?
Well, no, but that wasn't an issue. Now
that's not what I asked you. I asked you, was that an issue when I was?
If it came up to me, I have an issue.
It was open for 24 hours. Did you have a concern with it?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, but clearly it seems that there's residents that have a concern about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy came up. I don't know if no one's got a beef, then I don't have a beef. But they had a beef.
Ellen, what do you want to do?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
At one point you said, let's revisit.
Let me speak to that. Okay. So I have gone on the record as saying that I have felt that we cannot pull the rug out from underneath an existing business. However, having Mr. Sarlo reiterate that we wouldn't be in a legal bind by doing so. I do believe that it's more suitable to have 24-hour businesses in the C2 district and non-24-hour businesses in the C1 district. And for that reason, I think it's an important quality of life discussion and action that we should consider taking, and I would like to have an ordinance prepared with Ms. Bogart's recommendations for our discussion.
Vito, how do you weigh
I'll
in?
go along with the recommendation.
Whose recommendation?
The planner recommendation
All right.
as brought forth by Tom.
The planner's recommendation is permitting 24 hours in the C2 zone, restricting it 5 to 11 in all others.
What's the boundary?
I don't know your C2 zone.
You got to look at the zoning map. It's probably...
Can we have that when we look at the ordinance?
Yeah.
I'm sure we get to you ahead of time.
I mean, I think I have it home somewhere, but if it could be with the ordinance.
Sure.
All right, Tom. Prepare the ordinance.
Prepare and send to you in a couple of days. If you have any changes or suggestions, send them to me so I can have something.
All right, the next, according to our bylaws, I need a resolution if you want to continue the meeting beyond 10 p.m.
Not really.
Just a vote.
Depends if I'm in trouble.
Table everything and come back.
Yeah, we have
on the
closed
18th.
sessions.
I know, but I still need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The transit grant application, I'm not going to even raise that tonight. I'll raise it at the next meeting. Just another grant opportunity. Let's go to
Is there a deadline on that?
August.
Consent agenda.
The consent agenda, we already did item number...
We approved on the meeting.
We already did item number 3. Were the other two also on the resolution
Yeah,
list?
one was done, but number 2 was.
Number 2, to increase the coverage on the fire department from $300,000 to $400,000. I assume that there's no increase in our premium?
There is a slight increase, but we have it in the budget. And,
Okay.
It's been a number of years since we've increased this particular part of the benefit.
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Anything on unfinished business?
I had a question.
Yes.
Did we start renting out some of our space to the Bergen Regional Medical? And did they start paying?
Yes.
That's it?
Okay, nothing else? Where were we on the community center? What's supposed to happen next?
Supposed to schedule a meeting with consent.
Okay.
You want some dates? That I'm free?
No, I'll send out an email and we'll get some dates
Schedule a
to put
meeting
on
with
the calendar.
consent. The purpose of the meeting is to take the spaces identified on the report
Right.
and come up with a list where square footages are going to begin to appear. Then we have to the unenviable task of start deciding not necessarily what's too big or what's too small, but like how much we can afford right now.
Right, yeah. Okay. I will schedule a meeting. New business. Any new business?
Not tonight.
No.
No.
Okay.
Closed session.
Closed session. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have to restrict the public. We have we have 3 issues on our closed session agenda. Personnel, potential litigation, and labor negotiations.
We don't need the chief.
Thank you.
No, he carried that together.
Newspaper guy.
Was that me?
Are you a reporter?
Oh, I thought you were just here for fun.
Are you from the town news or?
Yeah, just going in tonight.
Good seeing you.
What do you think you're going to focus on for the article in the next paper?
The car show.
Yeah. You could just probably take last year's and
cut copy.
stick your name on it.
Car show that was.
That
That could have been. Car show that
Murphy's
could have
gonna be
been.
all over that. I like the sod recommendation.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
I mean, let's not put a plastic pan, let's use sod.
I know. But then she's willing to give the sod away afterward.
Oily sod.
Yeah, that was crazy.
There's no oil coming out.
No, I know.
None.
Yeah.
Are a lot of the spaces taken